Good morning, all. Welcome to the day 2 of the national webinar on Art of Writing and Publishing Research Programs. The topic for the session is Strategies for Academic Publication, and the resource person is Dr. Srijesh S., Assistant Professor, Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode. Now, I invite Anu Babu to introduce the speaker.
Good morning, all. I consider this as a privilege to introduce our speaker, Dr. Srijesh S. He is currently working as an assistant professor in marketing management at IIM Kozhikode. Speaking about his education background, he has done MA Economics, MBA, MPhil, and PhD from various renowned institutions. He has conducted research in various areas like online marketing, advertising, service marketing, and list goes on. Speaking of his work, he has published several journals such as Examining the Different Effects of Gaming Platforms and Game Speed of Advert Games on Memory, Attitude and Purchase Intention, Consumer Response towards Social Media Advertising. These are just the names of his few recent journals. He is also an author of several reputed books such as Business Research Methods and Mixed Method Research Design. He has also been the coordinator and resource person of various programs that have been organized at Cochin University of Science and Technology and various other institutions. He has a keen interest in teaching. It is actually our privilege to have an eminent and resourceful person like him to share his thoughts and views on strategies for academic publication. Now, I invite Dr. Srijesh S. to take over the session.
Thank you. Yeah, so can you switch on the video? If someone want to switch on the video, you can switch on the video. Otherwise, it's look like I'm just sharing something and you're not able to understand something. So can you switch on the video, somebody? And some people can switch on the video. That. What about others? Yes, please. Yeah, there are 2 people. Yes, other than that. Right. Yeah, so before I begin my session on research and publication, so I just want to ask you something. How many of you are very active in terms of research? Very active. How do you rate yourself as a researcher? How many of you are active? You can raise the hand so that I can locate. All right. So Alex is very active. So Alex, what kind of research you are doing? Is it audible, Alex? Probably you can talk to me. You can unmute yourself and you can talk to me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Alex.
Yes. Okay. I just completed my PhD in continuing education programs and education for all in Kerala state. After that, I am trying to PDF in Kerala University. My area I selected to study about the transcendence problem.
Okay, so yeah. I mean, you said that you are very active on research, but have you started publication in terms of journals and all?
Yeah, I have around 15 journal in CARE, 37 publication in national and international seminar proceedings.
Okay.
Okay.
So you said that you are always.
I think one sentence more. It is only just beginning, sir. It is simple work, not a large work. As a researcher, I am a child.
Okay, but everything is actually in the same position. So yeah. Yes. So thank you so much, Alex.
Thank
So
you.
what about others? Anyone want to say that, I want to identify great research in this group. That's what the reason, I just trying to, Alex just started his research and he said that he's a beginner. And there'll be some other person, he also doing very active research. So someone else in this group, they are very active in terms of research other than Alex.
Hi, good morning. Myself, Dr. Lata.
Right. Tell me, ma'am.
I am based at Central University, Lucknow, and I'm actively involved in publishing and writing research. These days, I'm working on empirical studies along with the SLRs and meta as well. So there are 2-3 works going on in which I, along with my scholars, are either involved in meta or SLR, or maybe making revisions in our empirical submissions which have taken place.
What kind of journals you generally target?
So far, in the last year, I could publish 3 papers in A category publications and 1 in C.
A publications sense ABDC, A category?
Sorry?
ABDC, you're talking about A category? ABDC?
ABDC I'm talking about. And these are hospitality journals, because number of hospitality journals are many in A category, what I find. And though I am OBHR faculty, I work on employee behavior among the hospitality industry professionals. That's what one thing I keep in mind. Apart from it, I'm working with my students, research scholars on entrepreneurship. That is next another area that I'm opening up, as I am working in the Department of Rural Management. So I am opening up myself into entrepreneurship, and there are many journals which are in entrepreneurship behavioral aspects as well. So these are the...
Right. It means that if you look at Alex versus you, probably Alex is most focused on care listed publications, and different from that, you are more focused on ABDC. And ABDC is relatively better classification or ranking. And the kind of journal which you probably publish, I feel that it would be relatively good ranking journals. Yes. Anyone else other than Alex and this ma'am looking at publication? Someone published something into SCI, Science Citation Index, or Social Science Citation Index journals? Anyone else in this group? Anyone else? No.
Some of the papers are listed in SCI journal as well. However, not all of them. I do not focus specifically at the moment on SCI journals because I have seen that for management faculty members, for applying to premier institutions, ABDC is most preferred so far, was most preferred so far. Maybe SCI, focusing only on SCI journal, that can be another aspect to look into it.
All right, right. So today's discussion is all about research and publication. Specifically, my discussion is all about publication in top tier journals. And at top tier, in the sense, you may ask a question that I've been publishing, or you've been publishing in different set of journals. But how come we can say that some journals are top tier, some journals are lower level, or something like that? So here, what I'm trying to talk about in journals, in terms of classifications, in terms of reputations. And we always look at the acceptability. So for example, one point Alex said that Alex is looking at care listed publication, right? That is a kind of acceptance from UGC. And if you look at this ma'am, and she's looking at into care listed publication, not care listed, ABDC classified journals. And that is relatively better classification. So again, she said that ABDC is better or superior classification. And therefore, they are targeting that. If you are looking at your career profile, or if you are trying to target into a different career orientation properly, you need to publish in very top tier journals. Today's discussion is all about publication, very reputed, highly reputed scholarly publications, scholarly journals. So therefore, almost all perspectives I'm trying to talk about is primarily oriented towards journal publication, very top tier peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed journals, right? Is it? I believe everyone understood the context of my discussion today. So I'm not against the other journals, but again, always we need to look at, in terms of scientific contribution, we need to look at the scientific impact. When you're looking at the scientific impact, we always need to look at where it's actually going, what kind of people who reads, and how this paper will be acceptable and what kind of reputations we got when you're publishing a paper. It's very, very important, very, very important. That's the reason I'm just trying to limit my discussion specifically to very top tier scholarly publications, right? So I use the word scholarly publication, right? So what do you mean by top tier scholarly publications? What's the meaning? What's the meaning of top tier scholarly? How do you define top tier scholarly journals? And we all got actually some kind of doubt about, what do you mean by scholarly? What do you mean by top tier? How do you differentiate top tier? So all these questions comes into mind. Is it? So what do you mean by top tier? Anyone in this group? What do you mean by top tier? Any suggestions? What's the meaning of top tier? You become inactive. So what happened to you? What do you mean by top tier?
Sir, chat and videos are disabled. May I request the host please enable chat and video so that we can interact better?
So the conference team, please activate their chat and video. If we are getting any background noise, probably you can mute, and otherwise please make it open. I'll make it actually very interactive. Otherwise, it will be very monotonous in nature. That's the reason. Please make sure that everyone else can contribute.
Hello, sir. Now chat and audio is enabled.
Right, please. So what do you mean by peer-reviewed top-tier publications? What do you mean by that? Scholarly listed publications. What's the meaning? How do you define it? How do you define that? So please make sure that, whatever knowledge you have, you please share so that, we can clarify your concerns and all, please. You can also point or give your points using your chat window. Yes, A category. Okay, Vishal said A category, right? So it's not only A category, it also belongs to B, C, and all, right? So I have a definitions probably. I don't know whether you agree with the definitions or not. I use the word scholarly means they are actually following very strict review criteria, and that is first condition. And second is actually accepted by peers in your area. For example, if I'm working in marketing, and it should be accepted by peers. For example, tomorrow, if you're applying somewhere for a job position, if somebody say that this journal is unknown to me in our area, or this journal is not very popular in this area, and definitely that will criticize or questions your reputation. Is it so? And that is what the second criteria. And probably third criteria is that if you look at the journals, generally journals got higher level of reputations, and it is actually there in some of the reputed rankings, reputed journal listing, or reputed journal indexing. For example, very reputed journal indexing, we call it as SCI, Social Science Citation Index or Science Citation Index. That is a highly reputed indexing, right? If it is part of SCI, or if it is part of ABDC, or it is part of APS, or it is part of Scopus, and it is actually following very strict reviewing process and actually accepted by peers in your area, right? Very strict policies and practices in terms of publication. Probably we can call it as scholarly journals, right? On the opposite side, non-scholarly, I define that non-scholarly journals are those journals, they are not following any kind of review criteria. And for example, if you prepare a paper, submit a paper to the journal, within a week time, they will accept your paper. In return, they will actually ask you some payment. That is first. And you will not get proper review process, second. At the same time, that is not part of any top indexing, not top indexing. Indexing in the sense it's not part of Scopus, it is not part of SCI, it's not part of ABS or ABDC, nowhere it's there. So in that case, I call it as non-scholarly in the sense, I won't say that it's a predatory journal, rather I use the word non-scholarly in the sense it's not accepted by peers in the area. At the same time, it's not following any kind of reviewing criteria, and most importantly, it is not part of any of the indexing system, right? Any of these, in the sense, we also need to look at the reputation of the indexing system. For example, Scopus is a very popular indexing. At the same time, SCI is another popular, and ABDC in management and ABS in management is also very popular in management, commerce, economics, and other related area, right? And that's the reason I just want to discuss or limit my discussion with respect to these kind of scholarly journals. This kind of scholarly journals. Some people feel that, there is no connection between what you publish versus, what I'm just trying to talk about. Again, research is just like swimming, actually. So you always want to improve yourself. Therefore, always make sure that whenever you actually do some kind of scientific contribution, it actually reaches to the people, the right people. That is always important. Therefore, it's always important that, your publication should orient it towards very reputed indexing systems, right? It's very, very important. Otherwise, you will publish the paper, but nobody reads the paper, nobody cites the paper. There is no scientific influence. Therefore, it means that there is no visibility to your paper, right? If there is no visibility to your paper, and ultimately as an author, what we are getting? We are not getting anything, is it? We are simply publishing and we are keeping the publication on the shelf. If you keep the publication on the shelf, there is no point in doing it, right? Is it? So ultimately you're using only for your career purpose, right? Is it? So I don't think that, using for career purpose, that's the sole objective of publication. And that is slightly different. And here in today's discussion, what I'm trying to do, I'm just trying to share my own experience as a researcher. Probably I started my research around 10 to 12 years back. During that time, I got a lot of questions in my mind. And I'm just trying to share my experience as a researcher so that, probably you can connect. You can connect with your experience. And if someone want to, link my experience with your experience, probably that would be a great learning. So that, it's all about what I'm discussing. It's not from any textbook or something like that. It's all about my own experience as a researcher. So I just want to share some of the research or the questions which I got into my mind when I started my research. Is this PPCR visible or not? Is it this visible? Visibility is there?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So here, these are the primary questions I would like to discuss today. Primary questions I'm just trying to talk about. There are some peripheral or secondary questions, but I just slightly directly or indirectly discuss that. But otherwise, I just want to discuss these questions in detail. And the first fundamental question that everybody will confront actually in their career as a researcher is first question: do I need to publish in scholarly journals? So many times people ask a question that why do we need to publish in scholarly? Because there are n number of journals in a particular category. And in that case, what about publishing in ISS numbered journals? Is it so? Mostly we look at ISS numbered, right? Is it? So what is the problem if we publish in ISS numbered journals? Why should we look at very scholarly journals? What do you mean scholarly? What benefit you are getting actually if you publish in scholarly journals? That's a fundamental question, which also I got. This is a fundamental question that which I confronted when I started my career. Then the second question, which I am trying to discuss today based on my experience, is nothing but if you decide to publish in very scholarly journals, what you want to speak and what actually create a scholarly listed publication, what actually leading to a scholarly listed publication. So then I found that a scholarly listed publication always requires something different. That is all about your storyline. That is all about the idea which you are trying to communicate, is it? So here, and the second question which I come to my mind is that what is that uniqueness? And do I need to talk about a unique story in my scholarly listed publication? So that is the second question. And then how do we communicate that? And third question, which is very, very important, that, if you look at your field or your area, you can see there are 2,000, 3,000 journals, right? Minimum 1,000 journals in your discipline, and having ISS numbered, non-ISS numbers, with different focus and all different themes, different ideologies, right? But I need to look at what would be the criteria which I can follow before selecting a journal to publish my paper. That is a very, very important criteria. So I'll also discuss that question. And again, afterwards, yes. So yes, you decided that you want to publish it. How do I write a paper to meeting the journal standard? Because that is very important. It's not only targeting the journal, it's also important that you need to write your paper, or you need to shape your writing considering the journal, right? Is it? That is also very, very important. So that's another question which I'm trying to discuss today. In addition to that, very important stage of your peer review process or your submission process, we call it as review. So review is the most important stage of your paper publication. So my discussion is primarily oriented towards the fact that what strategies, how do we actually satisfy the reviewers, and in which way we can actually make sure that the reviewers are happy with your paper. So that's what I'm just trying to discuss. Afterwards, in addition to that, it is very important. Most of us believes that once you complete the publication, that is sufficient or that is enough. That's the end of your publication, but I don't believe that. And it's also very important that as an author, or always expect citations, right? Is it citations? So citation is the most critical aspect once you get a publication. So here, it is very, very important that as an author, I need to communicate my paper. I need to inform others that, yes, I did a publication and please read my publications, right? It's very important that you need to disseminate or you need to communicate the knowledge, right? In addition to that, you also need to evaluate yourself. As a researcher, you need to evaluate yourself that where you are standing right now in terms of your publication. So for example, Alex said that Alex is publishing in terms of, care listed journals. But if you ask Alex, are you happy with the paper? Then Alex will say probably no. Because Alex knows that, his paper contains a lot of limitation. At the same time, the type of papers or kind of journal he's targeting right now, it's not great journals, right? Is it so? And therefore, it's very, very important that we need to improve our paper publication. We always target better journals always, right? Is it so? We need to improve the hierarchy and we need to target very great journals, right? So we need to evaluate and therefore we can improve the performance. So here, today's discussion is all about answering all these questions. Probably if I answer all these questions, you will get some kind of clarity in terms of how do we target your paper into a top-tier journal publication, Is anything else you would like to add in addition to these questions? Anything else in addition to this? So you can tell me so that I can cover during the presentations. That's the reason. I'm just asking you, please. If you have anything else, you be covered. Please respond actually so that I can understand your viewpoints. Yes, Lata, you want to speak something?
Fine. Maybe the strategy is what all we need to keep in mind, because many scholars are here who are willing to publish an ABDC or SCI journalists, right? So what all things that need to be keep in mind that will be beneficial. And sometimes maybe catching up with the scope of the journal and then mismatch between the work that we submit. So some light if you can put into it this kind of aspect, that will be really great, sir.
Okay, Brinda, I'll discuss that concept after some point in time. Probably I have a discussion on that with respect to contributing chapters in editorial and all. I'll discuss it in detail. Is it fine, Brinda? Yes, I'll show you something, Alex. I'll show you, don't worry. Yes, I'll show you. Now, so the first question, I'll start with the first question is that, do I need to publish in scholarly journals, right? So why? The question is that why you need to publish in scholarly? Why do we want to focus on scholarly? What benefit you are getting ultimately? And I have a set of answers with respect to that. My first answer is that I always a teacher, I believe that my research complements my teaching. So I always believe that my research complements my teaching. It means that so many of us teachers, we believe that we are all great teachers because I don't want to do research because I always focus on teaching, right? So my question is that if you do only teaching, if everyone start only teaching, so what is the contribution? Who will contribute to practice or will contribute in your domain actually? So if you are not doing anything great or anything extraordinary other than your teaching. So therefore, if you are a teacher, you also got equal responsibility to do research. And therefore, most of us actually do research, very good research. Ultimately, that research you can easily connect with your teaching. Connect with your teaching so that your students will appreciate like anything so that you can see the difference in your teaching. So that's what my philosophy. Therefore, as a good researcher always can deliver their concepts or his or her concept in a better way in his classroom. Therefore, the teaching would be really really effective at the same time. The students will get validation. So that's what I said by research always complements teaching. Research complements teaching. That's the first advantage. Therefore, at the same time, if you look at very scholarly, very highly reputed journals, probably highly reputed journals requires very high level idea, high level or good quality papers. Therefore, and at the same time, you are addressing the reviewers during the review process. At the end of the day, you are answering your paper, your questions suggested by reviewers. At the end of the day, you can see that you are convincing the reviewers, and therefore you are getting an acceptance, right? And if you do it repeatedly for 3 to 4 papers, you can see even your ideology changes, your thinking process changes, everything changes, and you are getting shaped as actually a great researcher. At the same time, you can see the difference in terms of your teaching, right? So it means that as a researcher, you are able to reflect your thought process into your classroom. Therefore, students are getting benefit. That's first thing. That's the first and most important thing, which as a researcher we need to do, right? And second benefit is that if you start doing very scholarly publications, you can change the research culture, right? And sometimes when you join in a department, you can see that it's a teaching department, right? So if you start doing very good publication, you can see the influence. As a teacher, you are influencing others, right? It's also important. It is also important that you need to influence others so that you can change the research culture, right? It is very, very important, right? If everyone start doing teaching, so then there will not be any progress in the department. At the same time, 1 or 2 people start doing very serious research, probably it can change the ideology of the department and the structure of the people and the contribution of the people. And therefore you can see that the culture of the institution as such is changing because the institution demands research culture, right? Is it so? That is also very important. And again, motivation, most of the publications and most of the institutions will not make any payment, and therefore there is no monetary incentives. And most of us actually are demotivated because we need to spend money from our pocket, right? That's what we do. But there are institutions in the country which actually pay a hefty amount in terms of doing research. But still, what I'm saying that, irrespective of monetary money versus other benefit, you need to motivate yourself actually. If you have a self-motivation, probably you can decide that, yes, I need very serious. And again, very, very important. And so my request is that if you are not want to actually add any point, you can yourself so that there will be disturbance. Others, please mute yourself. If you want to speak anything, you can unmute and you can. Yes. So again, another important thing is that as a researcher, when you look at your scholarly contribution or your academic standard, most of the top tier there is a background noise. Actually, can you mute yourself? There is a background noise. Yeah. So please mute yourself. There is a background noise. Yeah, I'll mute actually. So I'll look at who is actually speaking. Yes. So again, if you look at research publications, many cases your research publication shows your academic standards. So many times we evaluate the faculty or evaluate the professor based on the kind of publication he got. Is it? So academic standard is generally reflected in the kind of publications, the kind of scholarly work he actually added to the area. So therefore, high versus low academic standards is reflected in these publications. So therefore, again, I just add the word actually that, publications. And again, if you want to select someone in your institute and you want to see what is his exposure or what is her exposure, and definitely looking at this publication, we can easily anticipate what kind of exposure that participant or the employee or the potential employee got. And therefore you can easily assess or you can say that publication provides a signal that he got some different exposure, right? So that is another indication. Again, also shows the interest of the person. So for example, in some of the good reputed institutions, what they do, looking at the publication, we can assess in which area he would like to work. What is his interest? For example, in marketing, whether the person is interested to teach advertising, whether the person is interested to teach online marketing, that depends on the kind of publication he got. So it means that looking at his profile, looking at his publications, we can easily see his interest in terms of teaching, right? In terms of teaching and research, right? Again, and if you have a great career objective ahead, probably you need to do very serious research, because nowadays most of the institutions are following very strict recruitment process. Specifically, they are looking at people who have very strong publication records, or they have past records, or actually some publications are in the pipeline. So therefore, if you have great career objective ahead, definitely you need to have great scientific journals in your list, right? Is it clear to you all? Is it clear? And I believe I answered a question that why do we need to do publication scholarly journals? Is it? Right. So now many of us actually do or ask a question that, what is the reasons to conduct academic research? And in addition to the reason which I mentioned sometimes before, there are some other, reasons which I feel which is very relevant. First and most important reason, I feel that as a teacher, I got some kind of obligation. So is that I need to expand my domain. Is it so? I need to expand my domain. And Kamal, I'll come back to you after some time. I have a discussion on how do we select journals based on Web of Science and Scopus and all. I'll just tell you after some time. Just give me a background so that I'll move on to that. Just after some time, right? Give me some time. Right. So here are reasons to conduct academic research. I told you what is the reason. It's a tool where you can expand the theory or expand your domain. And again, to understand the various issues and problems many times during the class or during your interaction with outside, or using, when you are interacting with some practitioners, you may confront a lot of issues. So that issues probably you can convert as a good journal publication most of the cases. So it means that research is nothing but a means to understand various issues and problems, to know more about the various issues and problems, right? And in addition to that, sometimes some researchers to examine the feasibility. And for example, sometimes some researchers confront some kind of issues it can be in news channel, or it can be in your TV advertisement, or in newspaper advertisement, or newspaper, something we find an opportunities there. We may think that, yes, that's a great opportunity. Shall we do a research based on that? So research is a means to, again, to examine the feasibility of an opportunity. Again, most important, I believe, research is a platform to keep engaged and updated. That is the most important. As a teacher, I need to make sure that I'm highly engaged every day, right? That is very important. I should not waste my time, because time is so precious. I need to make sure that every day I'm engaged, I'm updating myself, so that what I'm doing, I'm just doing, adding value to my students. Is it so? So if you want to update yourself, it is make sure that you always engaged, because you are reading papers, you are preparing your idea, you are reviewing, or you are actually addressing reviewer comments, and then again modifying your paper. It means that you are so vibrant. You are so vibrant. Every day morning starts with teaching, and also and also club with your research activity, and finally you feel that there is some kind of relevancy in a day, right? Is it so? And most important, I feel that as a teacher and researcher, after some point in time, your teaching becomes so monotonous, because every year students are changing. Otherwise, concepts is almost same, right? Is it so? You're going with your own old notes, same textbook. There is no fun in it, right? Is it? So in that way, I feel that if you do very serious research, you feel that, yeah, you start enjoying your environment, because today I have a paper to address or paper to work on, or sometimes I have a paper to review, or sometimes I have a paper to do revision, or something else, right? Is it so? So I need to interact with my co-authors, something like that. You are actually interacting, or you are vibrant, and so that, so that, you are enjoying your academic environment. You are enjoying your academic environment. That is very, very important. That is very, very important. Right. In addition to that, I feel that at least that is the last reason, probably I would say that it is actually, you can use as an indicator of performance assessment. So that is the last. It's not the first, right? So that is actually always last. Right. So again, So I believe I just addressed the first question. The first question is that why do we want to publish in scholarly journals? So partially I addressed that, and so that you all understood the fact that what's the purpose, what's the relevance of publishing in scholarly journals, right? Is it? It's it. I believe you understood the point, right? So once you decide that, the fundamental question which comes to your mind is that what makes these great journals or scholarly journals so great? And what I need to deliver. What is the speciality of these journals, right? What is the speciality? How do I make sure that I'm getting into the journal, what uniqueness I need to provide there? So ultimately, as far as my experience concerned, in great journals you can publish, only the condition is that first thing you should need a great idea. I call it a storyline. You need a great idea. And if you have a very vague or very improperly developed idea or storyline, there is a high chance that you can't get into great journals. So it means that idea matters. So idea matters. Therefore, most of the cases, almost all the editors and almost all the reviewers of great journals, when you submit the paper, they always look at the uniqueness of your idea. If you try to communicate the same idea in a different way and different context or different country context, unless until it demands a study, it is going to be very tough to get an acceptance. So the first and most important priority you always need to look at is nothing but get a great idea or get a great storyline and present it beautifully, so that definitely you will get a consideration. Right? And therefore, remember, and many times people feel that, yes, this is my paper, I can write anything I feel, right? It's not the case, right? You can't write anything which you feel. And I'm writing a paper for others, right? Is it so? It's not for me. And when I'm writing paper for others, I need to make sure that my writing is actually really interesting. Is it so? Which idea which I communicate is really interesting, which attracts the mindset of readers, right? And which actually create a scientific influence. Is it so? So it means that the idea whichever you propose should have the scientific influence. So otherwise, better not to work on that paper. So, right? And if you present the idea, if somebody not interested, if the reviewers are not interested or the editor is not interested, definitely there's no point in publishing. That's the reason most of the cases, top journals, what they do, when you submit your paper, immediately they'll reject. It's called as desk rejection, right? So you are getting desk rejection in most of the journals because of the fact that either your idea is not very great, or your writing is not so great, or something related to that. That's it. So otherwise, if the idea is very great, and even though the writing is somewhat loose or vague, still they will give a consideration. Therefore, make sure that you have a great idea, you have a unique idea, whatever you communicate probably influence others' mindset. That's the first and important thing, right? And make sure that when you are looking at your paper, you have something in your mind that is nothing but readers, right? Nothing but readers. So I'm writing for the paper for readers, for my readers. I'm just simply looking at my readers that, if I write a paper today, tomorrow someone read my paper and whether they'll appreciate my idea or not. That is very, very important, very, very important. It means that the important information I'm delivering through my paper, important information. Some people, what they do, they will prepare an idea. They know that the idea is not so great. It is already published in different journals, but what they do, they will try to replicate the study. Remember, if you do the same study, you may get a publication in lower level journals, but the thing is that if you try to target to a top level journal, and they won't find it very interesting because it's not a great information, because it's replicated information, right? At the same time, it's already done in a beautiful form, right? And therefore, you need to make sure it's very important information you are communicating through your paper. At the same time, the insight is very, very novel, and you need to search for novel insight. And at the same time, information is having quality, is quality oriented information. At the same time, after reading the paper, and you need to make sure that somebody will be influenced because of your paper. And it means that after reading my paper, if you feel like, yes, I can do a research based on this, it means that my paper is really influencing you, or it's actually providing some kind of directions. Is it? If it provides some kind of directions, it means that's going to be a great influencing paper, right? Is it so? That also shows that the paper is really interesting, right? And make sure that when you're writing paper, it should be understandable. And some people feel that you complex or make sure that your paper is so tough to understand so that you'll get an acceptance. That's not the case. So make sure that your paper carry all these properties: important information and novel insight, quality information, directions, interesting and understandable. And if you target all these criteria and priorities in your paper, definitely there is a high chance that you're going to crack your paper in a good journal. And again, one more thing, actually, different levels of journals got different set of readers, different set of audience. Therefore, these things are very subjective in nature. So you look at lower level journals, the information requires not so unique, not so novel. They don't require high quality information. They don't require very high quality directions and all. At the same time, extremely scientific journals probably requires everything in a very rigorous manner, very rigorous. It should be very, very rigorous, right? Right? You need to make sure all these things are there, right? Now, ultimately, I don't need to tell that what as an author I want, right? So definitely you need a lot of things. You need reputation, name, fame, citations, right? Is it so? You need monetary incentive, promotions, career promotion, acceptability in your institute, everything you need. But your priority should always be the opposite party, that is nothing but your readers, right? Is it so? You need to work for your readers. And every sentence you write and every thing you write actually in your paper, looking at the readers in the mind. Please don't write your paper looking at yourself, right? And now, make sure that the idea is actually heart of the study. And that idea drives the research questions and your hypothesis and your propositions, everything, right? So even leading to your findings, right? So ultimately, you need to make sure that the idea is so unique, so unique, and it is nothing but it's actually providing a statement that, you know, which actually shows that what do you want to do in your research, what do you want to do in your research, right? And many times people ask that, you know, how do I get my idea, from where I'll get my idea, right? What is the source at which I'll get the idea, right? And many times people won't get a very great idea, because I'll tell you why. Most of us actually generally, we try to start a research without having proper, or without doing proper reading, without doing proper reading. What do you mean by proper reading? So does it mean that you need to read newspaper articles? No. So proper reading means you are not reading the area. You are not reading the papers related to that area, right? And you are not reading the best papers in that area, right? It means that you are not understanding what is happening in that area. That's the reason you're not able to come up with great idea. The first and most important thing. It means that ultimately we call it as literature review. So I would use the word that if you are very lack, or if you're actually limiting yourself in doing proper literature review, definitely your research would be very weak. And generally people feel that there's no point in reading existing area, rather I can come up with my idea straight. It's a dream. It's not going to happen. At the same time, you're not very sure. You are sure that, you know, whether the idea is very novel or not, because you haven't read proper, you know, reading or background work, right? So you need to make sure. Many times, you know, the instigation, the starting point of the idea, sometimes from your experience, or from your existing literature, or from while attending a conference, you have noticed some idea, or from your real life interaction with something. Is it so? That will be the instigation. So that will be the starting point. But remember, that is a starting point, doesn't mean that that's the end point. There you need to start. You need to further build the idea. For example, from your real life interactions, you may get some kind of understanding that, yes, this is a really nice idea. But if you straight away start a research based on that, many times we feel that this idea is already done in a better form. So without reading, if you start writing a paper for a great journal, and when you complete the paper, when you submit the paper to a journal editor and reviewer will come back to you stating that, let's look at this paper, which is already published. Your paper is nothing but a replica of that paper. And at the same time, your paper is actually not carrying that much depth and rigor in comparison with that paper. It means that what kind of, you know, feeling you have right now. So you've done great work. You've been working for the paper, and at the same time, you did a lot of work, and finally, you are not able to get a space there in good journal list because the fact that you haven't done proper reading. You haven't done proper literature review. I believe you have understood the point. What is the problem in terms of getting a great idea? Is it? So I simply summarize. The summary is nothing but you need to have very thorough literature search or literature review. And if you have great literature review, you can make sure that your idea is novel, idea is relevant. At the same time, literature will also help you out in terms of doing one thing: how to conduct research. How to conduct research. For example, the area, after reading 10 to 20 papers, you can easily understand that, you know, how do I conduct my research? How do I prepare my paper? Even after reading some of the journal papers, you can also get an idea that which is the right journal for this paper. Which is the right journal for it. All these things you'll get from existing read. So it means that you need to read the existing area. And again, and when you get some kind of idea, don't straight away start, straight away convert. Don't do, actually just wait. And some people, what they do, today morning I'll get an idea, today afternoon I'll start writing that particular introduction. Don't do that. Rather, what you do, just read the area, take some time, right? Take some time, download the papers. And again, downloading the papers in the sense, you know, don't download papers from Google Scholar straight. And some people, what they do, they'll search in Google, they'll identify some work and they will actually read and they will get through it, right? Don't do that. When you are reading, read the best. That also, I'll tell you how do you select the best. So just wait for it, right? And select the best, right? And read only the best. Make priority there. Don't read everything under the sun, right? And in my case, when I'm targeting, let's assume that I'm targeting an ABDC A-star paper. When I'm targeting an ABDC A-star paper, I need to make sure that my reading is mostly into very top tier journals. Is it so? I cannot make sure that I'm reading everything under the sun, right? Is it so? Right? Therefore, the first and most important first thing is that Sajid asked a very beautiful question. Sajid question is that, let's assume that I want to make sure that I'm reading, right? From where, how I select papers? That is a fundamental question. First thing, Sajid. Let's assume that I'm working in the marketing area. When I'm working in the marketing area, I've been working last 10, 12 years, I've been working in my area. I know that what are the best channels in my area. That is what from my own experience. I know the best. Even I have the list of journals, first thing. Now, in your case, I presume that you are a beginner. In this case, how do you identify that best journal? Generally, what I'll do, Sajid, I'll do some kind of, you know, inclusion and exclusion criteria. Inclusion and exclusion criteria. Oh, so you may ask, what do you mean by inclusion and exclusion criteria? The first thing, when I want to do a search, I'll identify the relevant keywords, stage one. Identify relevant keywords. So Sajid, can you come to video mode? Come to video mode. Right, not able to come, right, is it? Okay, leave it. If you want to come, you can come, right? Right. Now, so first thing is that identify the best keywords so that you can locate your papers. Stage one, okay? Locate the papers. And remember, let's assume that I would like to do a study on online marketing. Let's assume I can select many related keywords: online marketing, internet marketing, digital marketing, right? Is it so? So many related keywords I can look at. Is it? Yes or no? Yes. So make it very active, actually participate, because I feel that's very looking like, you know, I'm just talking to my computer, right? So make sure that I also feel some kind of, you know, demotivation. So you want to motivate, then only I'll give you best insights. So make sure that you're getting best insights. Right. So don't be afraid, or we are all beginners. So there is no point in actually that, you know, what I'll think about you, nothing will happen. Give me a second. I'll look at your chat window. Give me a second. No. Keep it. Yeah. So the first thing is that identify relevant keywords, right? What is the next strategy, Leta? And after identifying relevant keywords, what do you do further? Yeah, Leta. Yeah, not audible. You can repeat. Whether you can remove your earphone. Probably that may help.
Computer audio, let me try with the computer audio.
Right.
After identifying keywords, what we do is we generally go to Google Scholar and try to get the papers, because every time we do not have access to Scopus and Web of Science. So what we prefer is we prefer to read the papers only published in highly rated journals, like journals from Emerald, Elsevier, Taylor and Francis, Wiley Publications, etc. And then we download the papers, which are the latest papers in 2019, 20 something, so that we can get an idea that what kind of work is going on in this area. And to narrow down the topic, or coming down to conceptual model. Sorry.
So she said a very good, she said a very good point that when you get keywords, first thing she will go to Google Scholar. When you go to Google Scholar, if you type the keywords, you can find some list. Is it so? You will find list of papers there. List of papers in the sense which can be good papers, bad papers, and all. So I will look at one by one, right? But you won't be able to download from Google Scholar, right? Is it so? Sometimes it can be an Elsevier journal. It can be an Elsevier journal. You need to go to Elsevier website, right? So for example, Science Direct.
Sometimes we can download. Otherwise, if we are into the regular review process, we keep on getting the access of downloading 40 articles or something. So by that ways we download, or otherwise Sci-Hub is like blessings to us.
Yeah. So it means that Google Scholar may generally will not get good quality paper. Because Google Scholar
ఇంకో షర్ట్ ఇచ్చేటప్పుడు ఈ మిస్టేక్ జరిగిందని చెప్పాలి. స్టిచ్చింగ్ బాగుంది అవన్నీ.
Can you mute? Can you mute? Yeah. So if you look at Google Scholar, you can see the list. And please use Google Scholar as a platform to see the list of papers. See the list of papers, right? So you can see the list of papers. And after getting one by one, let's assume that you are just noting the list of papers in an Excel sheet, right? In an Excel sheet, you found that there are 400 papers. Let's assume 400 papers are related to the keywords which you used. Can you review all the 400 papers? Can you review all the 400 papers? Is it possible? It is very exhaustive list, is it so? Very exhaustive list, right? No. So it means that we need some inclusion and exclusion criteria, is it? Inclusion and exclusion criteria. But can you randomly delete it? Can you randomly delete it? No, don't do random deletion, because if you do it randomly, sometimes you will miss very good relevant papers, right? Don't do it randomly, and use a commonly accepted inclusion and exclusion criteria looking at the number right now, right? Let's assume that you made a restriction that you want to read papers from 2000 to 2020. 400 papers you located, 400 papers, journal papers. Now, generally what I'll do one thing. First criteria, I will go to Scopus. I'll make sure that all these journal papers are published in journal, which is part of Scopus. So I'll show you how to locate it. I'll tell you later. For the time being, just understand that what I'll do, I will go to Scopus webpage. I'll show you after some time, okay? So I will identify, I'll make sure that, or I will locate those journal papers which are part of journals which is actually listed in Scopus. Listed in Scopus. Let's assume that at the end of this particular process, I found that we are able to come down to the number 150. Number 150, right? Still looking very large, right? Is it so? Number is actually 150 is too large, right? Is it? Will you look at 150 as such? Will you look at 150 as such? Is it okay that you can go with 150? If you are okay with 150, you can go ahead. But if I feel that, yes, I want to work for a paper, 150 is too large again I will use another criteria. Another criteria, probably I would use a criteria called as SCI indexing. SCI indexing. So I'll again go back to SCI. I'll show you that as well. How do you look at SCI? I'll make sure that it is part of SCI indexing. So now I can see that probably again the number came down. Previously it was 150 scopus listed. Now it's almost around 80, 85. 80, 85. Right? Remember, during this process, I also deleted those papers which is actually not carrying subject relevance. So I did it already, okay? So which is under the impression that, for example, if you use online marketing online, there are some papers which is there in other discipline, which is not part of my area, which is also used online something. So I deleted that. But in addition to that, I also applied the criteria, the screening criteria, where I applied first stage MAME, I applied Scopus indexing. I just confirmed that the paper which I am reading right now, it's part of Scopus. But again, I found a very huge list. And again, I came down and then used SCI indexing, that is social science, that is SSCI indexing, social science citation index. Now I'm able to find around 80, 85 papers. Right? Now you can make sure that these 85 papers are published in almost very good reputed journals, very good reputed journals. Is it so? Is it so? Yes or no? Yes or no? Tell me your answer. Right? So it means that you are using a criteria where you have some predefined support that, you're deleting some of the journal papers based on this criteria, including some of the journal paper based on this criteria. Inclusion and exclusion criteria is pretty defined or well defined. Is it so? Well defined. And again, one more suggestion I'm just telling, when you're using Google Scholar, don't simply look at Google Scholar alone. I'll tell you the problem. For example, let's assume that I published a paper in one of the journals, Jakarta's Journal of Strategic Marketing, let's assume, which is published in the year 2000 as an online publication, Not that actually the final publication has come and it's online publication. But when I'm looking at my Google Scholar, I can't see this particular paper in Google Scholar. But when I go to journal webpage, I can see the journal paper. You understood the point? So it means that my recent paper is not there in Google Scholar, but it is there in journal webpage. Right? So you need to make sure that you are doing your search in highly reputed journal. For example, in your area, there are some journal which is highly reputed. Please don't exclude these journals. You need to go to the journal webpage. You can do a search, you can locate it. Right? And in addition to that, there are some databases. Like the way she said that there is a database called as Emerald, right? And we can search in Emerald, make sure that the paper is there and or not there in Google Scholar, doesn't matter. I'm just telling that please don't simply look at or only depend on Google Scholar, also look at databases. Right? I'll tell you, Sajid, don't worry. So you identify the journal paper, okay? The first thing is identification. You do a scoping review. What is scoping? You want to identify the depth of papers, how many papers are there in the area. Is it so? You are using some predefined criteria, is it? You want to see the depth. You don't want to read at the beginning, right? You want to access it. And every paper which you access, keep it in your Excel sheet so that you can locate it afterwards, right? Is it so? In chronological order or something like that, you can locate it. Right. Now, make sure that you are searching or doing your search in almost all the databases. It's like Science Direct. Science Direct is a very popular platform, and Emerald is another very popular platform. In management, we also have EBSCO, EBSCO, and we have Procost, we have Gesture. Right? So please make sure that you do your search in all these platforms. Again, remember, in addition to that, there are some journal which is part of Wiley, which is not there in Emerald, which is not there in which is not there in your Science Direct, which is not there in EBSCO. So you need to go to Wiley platform, you need to search. Wiley is also a very well-known publisher, is it so? And again, there are other publishers called as Taylor and Francis. They have a separate database. You also make sure that you are also doing search there in their platform, Taylor and Francis, right? And ultimately make sure that you are able to identify all these papers and also did an elimination criteria, and that is based on the number. Is it so? And now after doing everything, I'm able to locate around 80-85 papers, right? Is it so? Now what you can do after looking at, you can start downloading the paper. You can start downloading the paper, right? Is it? When you download the paper, some papers you won't be able to access. And some people say that I'm not able to get it because we don't have access to these platforms. That's the reason. Again, remember, nowadays there is no restrictions as such. And if you're not able to access, probably you can go to some of the institutions. And even IMK, your access is very open. At any time you can come and you can download or you can access our library. That facility is there, right? You don't need to make any payment, right? So in most of the institutions, you can easily or freely access it actually. So I mean, good institutions, they will allow you. You don't need to make any payment there. 1 day or 2 days, you need to visit the library. That's it. So otherwise, nowadays there is no restrictions. Also, we have almost all the databases, right? Now, even if you are not able to access, again, there is an option that if you find that yes, you are able to identify, not able to identify 1 or 2 papers, what you will do, just try to locate the author email ID. Locate the author's email ID of this particular paper and write a mail to them. Most of the authors send you that copy. Most of the others will send you the copy. So it means that you can write a mail to them stating that you are working in this area. I'm very interested to read your paper and can you kindly forward this paper? So definitely as an author, if you are sending an email to me, I'll forward the paper to you. There won't be an issue, right? Because I'm going to get a citation, right? Is it so? Therefore, that is a strategy. And then you can do your reading. You can start reading one by one. My suggestion is that do it chronologically. And from that, you need to develop your idea. I believe you understood the point. At least it's a very vague idea, okay? Very vague. If you ask me in detail, we need to discuss actually at least a day to talk about literature search in detail. So, yeah, is it clear? Is it clear? Right. Now, here, yeah. So here, after reading, and if you read these 80-85 papers from the best journals, you are reading from the best out of best, because these are all papers which is part of SCI or SSCI. Is it so? It means that you are reading the best. At the same time, nobody can question you that, why did you eliminate it? You have the reason. This is what the norm, okay? Again, I'm just telling the commonly accepted norm in the domain, in the field, in the research actually. So nobody can ask you, why didn't you refer the Indian studies? Why did you refer this paper and all? But you can say that you have some justification to do elimination. Is it so? You've done some kind of screening criteria. That screening criteria is very popular criteria, right? And at the same time, remember again, one more point I'll tell you. In top journals, let's assume that you are targeting a very top journal. The first and most important thing is that the kind of citation you actually provide matters. If you try to cite a very, irrelevant publications there, it actually creates very bad impression. So most of the cases, they also look at the citation which you actually reported in your paper. Therefore, citation is very important, because that shows that the author developed this idea and done this research based on these papers, right? Is it so? When you are actually trying to communicate that, yes, let's look at my paper, my idea is developed out of these existing papers in this domain, you need to communicate that, yes, that communicate the quality of your paper, communicate the quality of the paper, and also communicate your exposure. On the opposite side, if you cite very, very lower level journals, that actually gives an indication to the editor and reviewers that you are not a great researcher. At the same time, you are a beginner in this field, and they may try to reject your paper at the beginning, right? And make sure that the kind of citations you have, it create an impression, right? And again, if you're targeting a very great journal, and if you're not carrying any citation from that journal, it's also going to create a bad impression. It means that your paper carries no relevancy with respect to the journal. For example, if I am targeting a journal called as JBR, Journal of Business Research, and I'm targeting Journal of Business Research, I'm trying to submit a paper. If that paper has no citation from JPR. It means that my paper is not having any match, or my paper has no connection with respect to the area and has no connection with respect to journal as such, right? Is it so? So you also make sure that when you are actually preparing a paper and targeting a particular journal, you carry a relevant citation, not only from that journal as such, but also from the journals in that domain, very popular journals in that domain. Therefore, I believe all of you understood the fact that why literature review is so important. Literature review doesn't mean that you are reading and reporting, you're writing. I don't actually literature review.
పట్టుకుంటే రోజుకు ఒక 10,000 వాడేటట్టు, నెలకు ఒక 10,000 వాడేటట్టు చూసుకోవాలబ్బా. ఏమంటావు అన్న? అన్న అనుకుంటుండు నేను ల్యాబ్ లా గుద్ద ఎక్కించుకొని తిరిగి.
Is it clear so far? So therefore, again, my suggestion to you all is that if you want to know more about research or how to conduct research, you should be a great reader. You should be a great reader. At least in a week, you need to do you need to have at least one literature you need to read. One. It means that you can see the difference in your ideology, difference in terms of your writing. Everything will change. Everything will change. Therefore, you make sure that. Minu, I didn't understand actually. So number of citations also in the sense, in a journal paper, too many papers is not looking good.
Sir, Minu here. Cited by only 25. I see some of the papers of 2017 and 2018 or 19. I see the cited by 14 only. Is it okay?
Here, you are using a criteria that is SSCI indexing. Is it so?
Okay.
And at the same time, cited by one person. It's fine.
Okay.
So let's assume that the paper is from JBR, Journal of Business Research, and that's a great journal in the area. And that is a very recent paper. It got one citation.
Okay, that will be okay.
That will be fine. That will be fine.
Okay.
That'll be fine. There's no issue. Okay. But that is a very popular journal. That's the reason. You understood the point?
Okay, so we must consider the popularity or this type of tourism management and all, no?
Yeah, Saeed, that you are very right. But if the paper is very old, for example, this published in 2005, and if you want to see whether this paper is very popular in your domain, and you can look at the citation. But if the paper is very recent, it's very tough to analyze the popularity.
Yeah.
Right. At the same time,
yes, sir.
You also need to include very popular as well as recent papers. Right. It is also very important that you need to include recent papers.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
And I mean, generally, we won't do an elimination based on citations.
Okay, sir.
Right. And rather, we should have some other criteria. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So in terms of research proposal, and depends on the proposal requirement. Okay. If, for example, if an institution demands 2,000 words proposal, 2,000 words proposal means if you include 50 citations, it's going to be very tough. Is it so? Then in that case, you need to prioritize that. What are the papers? What are the important papers you need to cite in your work? 2,000 words means you need to come up with 3 to 4 pages. That's it. Is it so? Within 4 pages, you need to make sure that there is a priority list in terms of citations. You need to do it accordingly. So even sometimes people do 30 or 20 or 30 citations, 2,000 words proposal, but still what they do, they will actually at the end, they will make a note that due to brevity, we are not referring the citations here in this page. However, it is required upon request. So that way you can write. Right. Give me a second. I have an urgent call. So I believe all of you understood what is the importance of literature review. Is it clear? Right. Now, again, we need to make sure that, when you complete the literature review, take your time actually. So whenever you are doing literature review, don't make it very hurry. Do take your, 3 months time, 4 months time to read it. Right. And after some time, and again, my suggestion is that prepare a table in an Excel sheet or something like that. Important points of that literature should note down so that you can remember and recollect. And that comes in literature review, separate literature review, but we won't discuss actually, I won't discuss right now, how to conduct literature review at this point in time. I'll look at some other topics also today. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that the idea or the learning or the knowledge which you get would be extraordinary. That 80 papers, if you read it properly, the learning, and if you read that 80 papers, I'm pretty sure that not one paper, you can come up with multiple papers out of it. Multiple papers. That's the way we need to develop the area. We need to develop the area. And again, my suggestion is that you update yourself. You update yourself, make sure that you are periodically reading. For example, a top journal recently published another paper. You need to make sure you're reading it. And it means that if you continue this process, I'm pretty 100% sure that within 2 or 3 years, the kind of idea you get would be extraordinary. Because you are very familiar with the literature, you are familiar with the area. If you, for example, many people feel that, when I come up with the idea, I feel that the idea is so great. Why? Because I haven't done proper reading. That's the reason. If you do proper reading, I'm pretty sure that your idea would be so unique, so unique, right? And again, it'll also develop a habit that you are reading and you are updated first thing, and again you will mind a curiosity in your mind. Oh, last paper I read actually talking about some concept. This paper slightly deviating that, and this idea is something better than that of other idea. In that, it means that there is actually a lacuna or there is a gap in that. Probably you can look at that as a gap for your research. Is it so? For your research, is it so? So is it a good way to identify your area? Is it a good way? Is it a good way to look at your area? I mean, what has been done, you are getting some idea. Now you are looking at what you can do there, right? Is it so? What you can do there, right? Is it? Right? And again, most important thing is that keep the stock of papers. Keep the stock. Don't make any compromise on that. Keep the stock of paper means anyone, if you ask question, you can easily say that, yes, this is what the authors did it. And again, pretty sure that now when you frame your hypo, when you frame your methodology, when you do your analysis, definitely you will easily able to connect with the previous papers. For example, some papers use regression. Now in your paper, you will think actually whether I can use regression or some other technique or not, because they used regression to examine this. Definitely I can also use it. Is it so? That way you can easily connect, right? And again, rules to remember. I have very fundamental rule. Research question is important. And again, a research question is not prepared within a day. Don't develop your research question within a day. And if you have something today, tomorrow, if you read it again, you'll find there are some issues because you are updating. Is it so? You are updating. And it is a result of continuous modification and restructuring. Is it? You need to modify it. For example, today I'm writing something. Tomorrow I'll read it again. Again, day after tomorrow I'll read it again. I'll find some kind of, issues in terms of presentation. Is it so? Sometimes your idea is there, but in your writing, you're not able to communicate it properly. But if you look at periodically, if you look at again and again and again, you can see that, yes, now you are able to modify it. So ultimately, you are assuring that others can understand. Is it so? Many times people write something, they feel that I won't be able to understand it, but others will understand. Please don't make any presumption. If you are not able to understand, definitely others will not understand. Right? If others won't understand, what is the benefit of doing it, right? So modify it. Don't make any compromise on that. If the third sentence or first sentence is not clear, delete. redo it. That's it. No compromise on that, right? That is what actually. So you should have patience specifically to reject in the sense, if it is not good, reject, modify it. That's it. You're not happy, don't compromise on that, right? If you feel that your intro, first paragraph, okay, I'm not very happy, but if you're not happy, don't keep it. Rewrite. And again, when you're doing something, let's assume that I'm reading your intro. It should be something thought-provoking. So I need to think as a reader, yes, it's a really great idea. If someone feels that's a really great idea, that shows that there is something in it. Is it so? And again, thoughtfully formulated, not accidentally formulated, thoughtfully. And again, I'm just telling you something that, I feel that my idea always be just like an infectious virus. What is an infectious virus? For example, if someone today afternoon, you go and read my paper. If you feel that, yes, this is a really nice paper, and I would like to do something based on that. That means it's kind of virus, right? It's affecting others' mindset. Is it? I need that kind of paper, right? But always try to do that. But still, whether I'm able to do it or not, that's a different story, but that will achieve over a period of time. If you have that orientation in your mind today, definitely you are going to be a great researcher. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Rome, it's not built in a day. Actually, it's built over a period of time. Is it so? So every day if you are striving to achieve that object in your mind, definitely you can crack. Nobody will stop you, right? Yes. So the rules, I believe all of you understood the rules, right? Is it so? Yes. Now, many people, when they propose their idea, they will use a word this way. They will use the word that, yeah, there has been studies in the area, but no studies has been done in this area. No studies. That's what their gap. But do you think that is a gap? That's a gap. No studies has been done. Is it a gap? No studies has been done because there is no relevancy. Is it so? That is also an important reason. Is it? No studies has been done, right? And many cases we need to justify why there is a need to conduct a study in that area. That is actually a real gap. For example, if I'm trying to say that, yes, there are studies, however, there is a need to have better understanding in this particular area because of this reason, right? If I justify the reason, that is going to be a gap. So it means that a gap is always a gap if it is justified by literature, is it? You need to justify the relevancy of it. So otherwise, that's not a gap. For example, today morning, you are writing a first paragraph and you are trying to say that no studies has been done. Now, as an editor, if I read your paper, I feel that, what do you mean by that? No studies has been done. How come you can say that? And what's the relevancy? But rather, when you're writing it and you are trying to justify using prior literature, that you are convincing the reader that let's look at these papers. All these papers got some kind of lacuna, and therefore, there has been no studies, but at the same time, there is a need to conduct studies in this area. Need to study. That justifies the relevance of the study. Is it so? Is it so? And therefore, literature will also help you out in terms of justify your gap. Is it? A proper literature review help the researcher to justify the relevancy of the gap. Right? Is it? Yes. Now, so supported by literature, that's the first thing. Your storyline always should have very great support. And mainly that should be supported with recent literature. Recent literature, very, very recent literature, not very old. Many people, what they do, I'll tell you one instance. For example, when I was reading a review, one person written that, though there has been studies in the area, recently there is a shift in this understanding. In the bracket, he mentioned a literature. Literature date is actually 1980, recently. Right? What does it mean by recently? He want to communicate that those studies has been done in this area and enough studies has been there, but recently there is a shift. But he used an old reference, is it so? Very old reference to report his actually uniqueness. But that is not really appreciated. You need to make sure that the gap mostly driven by literature and mostly driven by a recent literature. And that shows that your area is still recent, still novel. Is it so? Even after conducting this many studies in this area. And make sure that when you're presenting your gap or research objectives, you need to make sure that it is supported with not only with back references, but also with very recent references. That shows that your study is also relevant in recent times, right? It should be very timely, novel, specifics and clear, and it should be researchable. That is a very, very fundamental issue. Many times people select a lot of research topics, and if you see the topic, we can find that it's not doable. It's not doable because they haven't done proper literature review. If you do proper literature review, you can easily understand that which one is doable, which one is not doable. But at the same time, if you select an idea from your dream, you think that everything is doable. Everything is doable because we are thinking like a layman. Is it so? A researcher always think like actually a researcher because he should understand whether the idea is doable or not. Right? Is it so? Practically possible or not? Practically possible to conduct in a research frame or not? Right? Therefore, this is also very important. Not every idea you can execute. It's very tough. Every idea is impossible to execute. When you are executing an idea, it's also very important that it is doable. It is doable. And if you do a proper literature search, literature review, definitely it'll help you out. It means that if you become a great reader, or if you are having doing very great literature review, it'll improve your sensitivity. I call the word sensitivity. I believe you understood what you mean by sensitivity. Sensitivity means if someone says something, you will reciprocate immediately. Is it so? You can easily understand the pulse of the idea. Is it? Because you read the area. Read the area. When you read the area, you can feel actually what extent I can go. Is it doable or not? You start questioning your mind. Yes, my colleague only said this idea, but how come it's doable? Is it so? So it means that the sensitivity you need to develop, right? And that sensitivity you can develop only if you do a great reading. Again, so many people ask the question that if I read textbook periodically, will I get sensitivity? I use the word for research. No, it is better always read research papers. Always read the research papers. Textbook you can read to understand the concept, but beyond a point, to get a research idea, to get clarity in terms of research, better to read research papers. And again, my suggestion, the way I said that, read the best. Read the best. Right. And now, many times people ask a question that what approach I can follow so that I can say that I did a research, right? Oh, Ninu asked another question, how do we read papers effectively? Ninu, first time it will be very boring task, very, very boring task. And as a beginner, it will take some time. It will take some time, okay? So get a printout of your paper. Get a printout of your paper. And in a week, you make actually a pledge that, in a week, I'll read one paper. In a week, okay, it's fine. In a week. And then you start reading the paper one by one and make note of it actually in the side of where an Excel sheet or something like you can make a note of it. After some point in time, you can see that your sensitivity changes. If you read the paper, previously you used to have around 8 hours to complete the reading. Now you are actually completing reading within 1 hour. Because after some point in time, you can understand the pulse of the paper. Within actually 1 hour, half an hour, you can easily understand, right? You understood the point. Within half an hour, I can easily understand what is all about the gist of the paper. So it means that after some point in time, you can see that in a week, you can read at least 2 papers or 3 papers, something like that. I mean, make it as a practice. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And many people make a complaint, sir, I've been teaching. And how do I find time actually? Look at me, I have minimum actually, because we don't have restrictions actually, we have very limited teaching as per our actually, policies and all. We have very limited because we have annual teaching. We need to teach 120 hours, that's it. But still I'll do a lot of teaching. And I'll probably teach around, in a year, I'll teach around, 300, 400 hours, up to 500 hours. Though it's not mandated, but still I'll do it. But teaching is there everywhere. That is our bread actually, is it so? But research is our butter. right? And you need to find time actually. So if you want to get time, you will get time, right? If you say that I'm completely involved in teaching, again, that's your priority. That's your priority, right? That's your priority. But this is two sides of a coin, right? So you need to manage it, teaching and research. No compromise on that, right? So ultimately, you are a teacher, and therefore you are also doing teaching. You are a researcher, you're also doing research. You need to match up with that. So I mean, wherever there is a gap, you need to address. That's it. That's what my viewpoint. If I feel that I'm a great researcher, I'm doing good. If I say yes, I'm a great researcher, I don't teach. We have the flexibility, but I won't say that. Rather, I say that yes, I'm a teacher and also a researcher, so I need to appreciate each other. So make sure that you're doing both. Yes. Now we'll come to the approach. We'll come to the approach. You may ask a question that what is the right approach to do research? So when I'm getting an idea, remember, I always work in those areas where I have good familiarity with the papers. Okay, because I've been working in some of the areas in the recent past. I have the list of papers in my folder, in my desktop, wherever I want to. I read it actually almost periodically, right? So what I do when I get an idea, I'll start the writing. Idea in the sense will be very vague idea, very vague idea. I'll start the writing. So I'll not wait for it. And even I'm getting an idea, I'll just simply prepare an understanding and I'll communicate to my co-author. I'll write a mail that this is what my idea, shall we work for this paper, right? And then we'll fix a meeting. It can be online meeting, offline meeting, or phone. And in the meeting, we will probe further. So he'll ask, my co-author will ask actually, what is your idea? And he will ask some questions, a lot of questions he will ask. And I'll try to address it. And during the interaction, probably we'll come to the conclusion that this is what the right idea we can do. And this would happen after a series of interaction, not one day. For example, after having today's 2-hour interactions, I'll say that, yes, I'll come back to you. I need to read further. I need to look at the theory. Or when I'm looking at the idea, I'll say that, yes, but he'll criticize the idea. He'll say that, no, it's looking very bad. This could be the implication of it, but this can be questioned during the review process. Something like that, if he suggests, I'll say, yes, I'll be back. Give me some time. So probably within 2 or 3 days, I'll be, I read the paper or I'll read the work in this area. I'll again fix another meeting. I'll interact, right? And in between, I'll also start looking at the writing part. I'll send the writing of the idea, especially I will send the hypothesis. And during the writing hypothesis session, so I'll say that this is what the logic of hypothesis and this is what the model is. And yeah, now great interaction will happen. He will criticize, I'll criticize, then I'll justify. And remember, your co-author should be so patient enough, and or you should be patient enough. Somebody feel that, if somebody criticize me, what I feel, no, there is no ego at all. Actually, you are working for a common paper. He's also looking for the best, right? And you are also looking for the best. If somebody asks some question, you are liable to justify. Is it so? You need to justify. And in between, I'll start writing and I'll ask my co-author, yes, that, and in over a period of time, your idea is pretty clear, right? And qualitative research, that is, Anusha, generally, I will not work for qualitative. I don't have great understanding about qualitative research. I rarely work with qualitative because it's a very tough field. Very tough field, very, very tough. People feel that qualitative is easy, but I feel, in my perspective, I feel that quantitative is easy. Because, and again, acceptance actually, so I'll tell you frankly, acceptance is very less in terms of qualitative. Many of the journals will not accept qualitative research. They are very much biased. So that's the reason I even decided that, I prioritize that. I just want to work in quantitative because generally I teach quantitative papers and all, but I'm comfortable in that. Yeah, Mujit Khan, I'll explain. Just give me a second. Okay. Now I'll start the writing and my co-author also start some writing, some session. And specifically, we look at the hypothesis and the model. We'll work for the hypothesis and model first. He'll send it back to me immediately. And I'll read it and I'll give my suggestion. I will send it back to him immediately, right? And at the end of the day, we'll confirm that, yes, this is what the hypothesis, there is no changes in it. There is no change. Then we'll think of preparing the questionnaire or preparing the data or getting the data. related to that. Then afterwards, we'll collect the data. Then after collecting data, probably we'll write the analysis. In between, my coauthor will write probably the introduction, and introduction writing also will happen after series of interaction. We'll think about how do we position the paper? How do we present the idea? Oh, Sasani, this is not a session for looking at the hypothesis and all. Probably we'll have a separate session for that. Anyway, because that will dilute the discussion. That's the reason. So extremely sorry for it. Actually, I can do it, but the thing is, I teach us that. But at this point in time, if I do it, it actually is not justice to others. Actually, so that's the reason. Sorry. Right. So now, at the end of the day, we'll complete the paper. We'll complete the paper, and again we'll read again and again and again. My coauthor will read, and I'll read the paper, and finally, we'll be able to complete the paper. And we'll make sure that when we both of us are working for a paper, and we'll completely focus on that paper. And completely focus in the sense, we'll not look at this second paper at this point in time. We'll try to complete the first paper because our focus is completely on that. Because the problem is that if you take actually a gap from the paper, you will lose the idea. For example, last 6 months, I've been not working for the paper. I need to recollect again what was the idea I was actually trying to position. So it will take a lot of time actually. If you start the paper, complete the paper, get the data immediately and do it. And finally, we both of us will actually do a lot of series of editing and all, and we'll submit to a journal, and we'll wait for the result. Right? So it means that at the end of the day, we'll get the revision, we'll modify the paper, and it'll go through around 3 to 4 rounds of review. 3 to 4 rounds of review, and ultimately at the end of the day, if they're happy, they will accept the paper. Then we call it as we completed a research. Right? That's what my approach always. And some people do opposite. Some people say that, what you're doing, they'll say that I'm doing idea search. They will do the search in next 1 year. And after getting the idea only, they are perfectionist. They will get the idea first, then only they will start the research. And that will take a lot of time, right? And they say that they are doing research actually, next 1 year data collection research and all, they will do research. And after completing the paper, they will look at the journal, right? After completing. Now, when you look at the journal demands 6,000 words. There is an ideal journal, or the journal demands 8,000 words. Their writing is actually 14,000 words. Now they need to delete, is it?
சார் நீங்க போங்க சார் மேம் இந்த பிரின்சிபல் ரூம் இல்ல சார்.
Can you mute? Okay, yes. So it means that in my case I won't do that. When I'm looking at the idea, I know which journal I need to target.
Very informal.
Right? So when I'm communicating with my coauthor, I'll say that yes, yeah, I'm just looking at this journal. This is what my idea. Probably this idea is actually matching with this journal. Shall we work for a paper? And that was the beginning actually. It means that we have a predefined journal in our mind. We are everything we write actually in the paper, looking at the journal in mind. Right? And therefore my idea is creating idea, paper, publish the paper, then you call it as you did a research. Publish the paper. Publish the paper. That's not going to be a great research. That's not going to be a great research. Right? That's what my approach. Yes, Said, you asked me a question that, how do we improve swimming? How do we improve swimming? Said, how do we improve cycling? Cycling skills. Can you improve swimming and cycling without the experience? Without experience, no. So what do you do? Just start from the very basics. You start doing writing. Start doing, right? Alex, sometimes back, Alex told me that, Alex is doing in care listed publication. I appreciate Alex very much because Alex did an attempt and he submitted somewhere. His experience better than that of some people who actually not had started their writing. Writing is just like swimming and cycling. Therefore, you need to get understanding, but along with proper reading, You always, if you start, again, for example, is this way. I'm submitting my paper to X journal. reviewers criticize me right and left. They said that your writing is poor, everything is poor, and they are also giving some indication. So what I need to do, I need to take the paper back. I need to look at the revisions or suggestions given by the reviewer. I need to take it very seriously. I need to rewrite the paper, right? And therefore, once you start doing this particular rewriting based on the suggestions, recommendations and all, if you start doing this particular process, you can see the change in your writing. So it will happen actually one day. I mean, again, if you ask me a question that, if you ask me that you are a great writer, I'll say no. Still, I feel that I need to go further because I need to improve it actually again. So it means that still I believe that I'm still an imperfectionist. Actually, it's not perfectionist. I'm just looking at imperfection. From the imperfections, I always learn things and learn from the mistakes. It's an error correction model, right? Is it so? Correcting the errors and doing forward or going forward. Is it so? Is it? That's what the approach I'll use. So, I mean, over a period of time, you can see the change. It's all about experience. That's what I said, sensitivity. Now, when you publish one paper, it's a great paper, or you've done it good way. Next paper, you can address some of the issues which we confronted in the earlier paper. If you do it very seriously, if you're a learner, if you're a serious learner, definitely learnings will happen, right? It's all about learning over a period of time. Is it clear to you all? Is it clear? Right. So now, yes, Hashini, I'll share my number at the end. So generally, when I'm looking at literature search, you can do two approaches. You can do most recent paper. For example, you can download the most recent paper in a very top journal, and you can look at its references, most recent to past. That is one approach you can use. Some people look at most seminal paper, very old reputed paper, and look at how many recent papers cited that paper. That is also another approach. You understood the point? Most recent to past. I mean, most recent to past in the sense, get the most recent paper. For example, 2021 January paper. Look at its references. If it is a great journal, definitely it cited many great papers in its references. And try to locate all these papers cited by this paper. That is first approach. Or opposite side look at very old paper that at the same time that is reputed, but I call that seminal paper, very reputed paper in that area, 1980s paper. Look at how many people cited that paper recently. That is another approach. So these two approaches, you can use it and you can locate the paper. That is also another. Qualitative research is discouraged. I feel that it is always better to make priorities, because in life, we always need to make priorities. We can't do everything under the sun, the first thing. If you're focusing on that, try to leverage your competence, first thing. If you're a qualitative researcher, try to leverage that. And if you're a quantitative researcher, if you feel that that's actually a nice area, do that. But qualitative research, there is a high chance of subjectivity. That's a problem. Most of us research, but quality research may high level of subjectivity is there. For example, different people do data analysis of qualitative data analysis different way. And that case, journals discourage that. But at the same time, if you use very objective way of data analysis in qualitative research, and definitely will help you out. Right? Yes. Is it clear? Is it clear? Yes. Shall we take a break of 10 minutes? We'll be back. We'll take a break of 10 minutes. 11:20 we'll be back. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So 10 minutes break, okay? 10 minutes break. 11:20 we'll be back.
Okay, sir. There will be a 10 minutes break. After that, 11:20, you can join. Thank you.
Yeah, shall we start?
Yes, sir.
So I believe so far it's clear to you all. So is any questions? Is any questions?
No, sir.
Right. So now the next important question, which generally most of us want to address, is nothing but what criteria, what would be the criteria which probably I can look at small size. Rinda asked a question that small size acceptable in top journals, small sample size, which that's what you mentioned, right? Is it right? That's what you meant. So small sample size, is it? Yeah, I believe that is actually small sample size. Yes. And in that case, scientific, very high scholarly reputed journals always requires justifiable sample size, and that depends on the area, depends on the kind of study which you do. For example, if you are using a technique, it depends on the technique you need to support. And again, we need sufficient sample size in the sense it should be, some good number of sample 300, 400, that look at the previous studies published in this particular journal, and how many, for example, if you're using structural equation modeling, look at some of the previous studies published in this journal, what is the sample size they applied. And look at that, based on that you can select the sample. So that's what my suggestion in this case. Yes. Now, what criteria we need to follow while selecting journals, and many people follow different criteria, and some people follow wide circulation. And wide circulation in the sense many people read the journal actually. So for example, when I'm working in the area of marketing, I know that what are the very popular journals in that area. So I'll always look at that popular journals. I will not look at any other journal. It doesn't matter it's actually ABDC A star B or something like that. Always I have some dream journals in my mind. Oh, PPT is not visible. Right. Is it visible right now? Yes. Okay. So some people look at low acceptance rate in the sense, high quality journals always got very low acceptance rate, high quality journals. For example, what do you mean by acceptance rate? If a journal receives 100 submissions in a year, if they accept 2, means its acceptance rate is 2%, is it so? So high quality journals always got very, very low acceptance rate. And some journals in their web page, they will reveal that, this is what the acceptance rate, but otherwise they will not reveal that what is acceptance rate. That is very difficult to identify, right? Some journals always reveal in their journal web page, last year acceptance rate and all. And that is what some people look at. And some people look at, there is another criteria called as citation half-life. So the concept of citation half-life, I'll explain you what is citation half-life. Let's assume that we have a journal X, and X started its publication in the year 2010, let's assume. And now 2020, let's assume. And last 10 years, journal is there in this field. And out of last 10 years, the last 5 years, that is half of it, right? Life is 10 years. Half of life is actually 5 years. The last 5 years, totally it got actually 400 citation. Out of 400 citation, around 350 citation received during the last 5 years. Is it so? Half-life. During the half-life, out of 400, it received the citation, 350 citation during the last 5 years. It shows that that journal is going to be very popular. It's actually now emerging as a very popular journal, because nowadays the journal is getting or gaining a lot of popularity, right? Manisha, this is not actually a session for research project and all, and this is specifically a session for journal publication. So, probably you may have another session for research projects and all. Right. So probably you can look at that sessions actually. It will dilute the philosophy of the class. That's the reason. You altogether require a different approach for research projects. That research project always require a unique way of dealing with it. So publication on journals always require another approach, right? So I'm just looking at publication approach. So another
is that, another criteria some people look at is impact factor. Impact factor, and I'll tell you, impact factor. Impact factor, mostly we always trust on the impact factor given by Clarivate Analytics. I'll repeat the word Clarivate Analytics. Clarivate Analytics is part of an agency called as Thomson Reuters. Thomson Reuters, it's a very well-known agency, very international agency. They are the people behind Web of Science. Behind Web of Science. Web of Science is actually an indexing service of very premium journals. Indexing service of very premium journals like Scopus. Scopus got a wide coverage, is it so? Scopus got a very wide coverage, right? And Web of Science got very limited coverage, very less number of journals there in Web of Science, right? And now Web of Science is part of Thomson Reuters, and Thomson Reuters got actually an agency, and their agency provides an impact factor every year. Every year they publish an impact factor based on last year's citations. That impact factor, we call it as Clarivate Analytics. Clarivate Analytics impact factor. So you're asking how to distinguish between fake and good journals. I'll tell you a lot many ways in which we can identify. Let's assume that today you are getting a mail. In the mail, it mentioned that we have observed that, let's assume mail content is this. We have noticed one of your paper published in XYZ journal. We are very much delighted with the journals and the quality of the paper which you published there. However, we would like to give an offer that we are also publishing in this domain, and we would like to publish your paper. And there is no peer review process. There is no peer review process. You can publish a paper within 1 week. And the publication fees is 5,000 rupees. Right? What kind of journal is that? What kind of journal is that? Is it a good journal? Straight away, we can identify that it's not a good journal because no good journals can give you this kind of offers. Can give you this kind of offers, right? Is it so? Right? Right? It means that simply you can identify that it's a fake journal. It's a fake because it's a business. I mean, purely they're doing business. It's not for, empowerment. At the same time, if you look at, they are giving another thing that, they are also giving another thing that we got an impact factor of 10.1. We got an impact factor of 10.1, but no source mentioned. At the same time, social science, we feel that average impact factor is actually around 1 or 1.5 or 1.3 or something like that. Again, I'll tell you, Devendra. So now it means that again, their impact factor is 10.1. They are not providing the source of impact factor, right? They are telling that it's an impact factor, all right? And if you send a mail that can you reveal what's the source of impact factor, they will give some kind of name. But the name is not very authentic, right? If the name or the source of impact factor is not very authentic, again, that actually gives you something. Now, Devendra is asking something that, let's assume that this is a journal, they are giving you an offer, but it's part of UGC care. Devendra, it is up to you actually. So if, as a researcher, if you feel that you're going with UGC rules, regulations and all, probably you can publish. Okay, you can publish, right? And now again, Scopus also, let's assume it's part of Scopus. Again, Scopus also, there are different levels. I'll show you that levels later. Scopus also, there are levels actually. And just simply listed in Scopus as part of UGC care, it shows that it's an authentic journal. It's not very fake journal because it's part of Scopus, it's part of UGC care, but still there can be a chance that if it is not actually supported by a great publisher, let's assume it's an XYZ publisher. Now they are in their UGC care, they're there, but there is a chance that they may dilute their philosophy in future. Now you may publish it, tomorrow they may do some business in the sense, they will start accepting many papers, they will dilute the quality, probably they can be, or they may be, kicked out of UGC care. There is a chance, you need to be very skeptical about that also. Now they are there, they are not part of any publishing house. They are actually supported by a very small publishing house from Bangalore, right? And now they are part of UGC. There is a possibility, but there is also another possibility that they can be eliminated from UGC care after some point in time. But tomorrow, let's assume after 2 years, 3 years down the line, when you look at the journal, it's not part of UGC care, you'll be in trouble. Is it so? then at that time you may probably call it as a fake journal, is it? Now they are there in actually, that's what I said. You need to be very, very careful. You need to make sure that when you're selecting journal, it's a potential journal. It got a potentiality. It'll be there forever, right? That is also very important, right? So always my suggestion is that when you're selecting a journal, make sure that the journal is supported by a good publisher. That is one criteria. For example, if it is supported by Elsevier, or it is supported by Emerald, or it's supported by Sage, or supported by Taylor and Francis, or is supported by Iley, or something like that, right? Is it so? Definitely we can have an assurance that it will be there, though the grading will come down, but it's still part of a publisher. The publisher is a good publisher, is it? Right? In that case, you can assure that, they won't compromise. Rather, there is a high chance that they may improve their level. Right? Yeah. Now you understood the point, right? So how do you recognize? Again, one more thing is that, Devendra, if you start doing research in your domain, after some point in time, you can easily recognize any promises. If anyone give any kind of promise, you can easily say that whether he's a good publisher or bad publisher. That's what the thing. 2 years, if you swim in this particular pond, you can identify what are the fishes there, which fish is good, which fish is bad, right? You just do that process. That's it. Otherwise, it will be a trouble for beginners. And again, I'll tell you how do you identify just after the slide. I will just show you. Don't worry. And some people also look at high visibility. High visibility in the sense, nowadays almost all the researchers, we are looking at online databases. It's online databases. Especially we have access to Science Direct. We have access to EBSCO. We have access to ProQuest and all, right? Some journals will not be there in any of these platforms. But they are good journals. There are some good journals, which is part of, for example, if you look at, there is a journal called as Journal of Advertising Research, right? It's a very good journal in Journal of Advertising, but it's not part of any of these journal databases, any of this, right? Some people, they don't want to publish because it's supported by an association. So American Advertising Association, they are supported by American Advertising Association, but that's not part of any of this. Simply an advertising association, they are supporting journal, but at the same time, it's a practitioner oriented journal. It's a good journal. I know that's a good journal, right? Right now. And so therefore you need to make sure that some people are very much worried about visibility. I mean, it depends on people, right? Again, education institution, some of the education institutions, what they do as part of their conference and all, they'll actually say that this paper would be published in journals and all. Again, you need to look at the quality of the journal. Don't look at their promises, rather look at the quality of the journal. And depends on the education institution also, there'll be some differences, and better look at the quality. So then only you submit. And at the end of the day, you feel that your paper is having better quality. Don't, even if they accept your paper, tell that you don't want to publish in that journal. So that's it. Story is over there, right? Is it? Now, how do you collect data sources? And the data sources in the sense, Vaishali, I'm not clear actually. You are talking about collecting data or collecting literature? You're talking about, I'm not very clear actually. Can you clarify it? Yeah, I'll explain that. I'll explain. Mujhad, I'll explain. Data, okay. And nowadays, as researchers, we have a lot of platforms through which we can collect data, primary data especially. In IIM, we have a platform called as Qualtrics. 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 Have you heard of that term? Qualtrics? Qualtrics. So through Qualtrics, it's an online platform through which you can collect data. And if you want to get the response also, sometime, you need to spend some money. That's what you go through Qualtrics, you will get some kind of understanding. What is Qualtrics? Right? It's an online survey platform. It's an online survey platform. You can conduct it. It's mostly for primary data. And secondary data, you have so many other sources. Is it so? You have Proverse. We have so many other sources are there, right? Is it so? IndiaStat or something like that. So many other platforms are there. For people who are doing something in terms of this one, give me. So they have India Stat. Lot many is there actually. So depends on your area. It depends on your area. I just mentioned actually, you can't see that. Let me. Okay, give me a second. So, can you see this Qualtrics? There is another popular one would be called as Question Pro. These are secondary databases. You have another secondary databases as well. These are secondary data. A lot many others also there actually. So in your institute, you can. So many other secondary data sources are there, right? Yeah. Now, some people, while selecting journal, the way some of you said that you look at UGC CARE because as teachers of colleges, government colleges and universities, you need to look at UGC CARE listing, is it so? Because you always look at promotions and all, right? And that is one thing actually. So some people look at always that. Even, yes. So, yeah, now, again, in management, actually, in IIMs and all, the way she said, actually, some of your colleagues only saw that, we look at ABDC, Association of Business, Dean's Business School Council, actually. AB, Association of, ABDC, you type in Google, ABDC Journal Ranking, ABDC Journal Ranking, ABDC Journal Ranking. Give me a second. ABDC Journal Ranking. So we also got some other classification called as ABS. You type in Google, that is freely downloadable. ABDC is freely downloadable, okay? And ABS, you requires a login. A login in the sense, what you can do, you can use your personal email ID and login, and you can register there. Then you can see the list of journals there in ABDC and ABS. In ABDC and ABS, if you look at ABDC, it got wider coverage, very wider coverage, including papers from or journals from commerce, arts, management, statistics, right? So many disciplines, so many related disciplines of management will be there in ABDC. And same time, ABS got very limited number of journals. Yeah, that I'll tell you, don't worry. Please wait, I'll show you. Sure. Now, some people look at one publication, they will look at theme idea match. So don't focus on all the journals for your paper. You look at the match of your idea versus the theme of the journal. If the journal accept online marketing papers, I need to look at only those kind of journals. Don't try to look at all the journals. And if the journal accept only services marketing paper, I need to submit my paper to services marketing journals. That's what I said by theme idea match. Again, some journals are very much practitioner oriented paper. Idea audience. Your idea should be able to give some kind of guidance to the audience. So if you, for example, in a practitioner oriented journal, if you start writing a literature review, probably you won't get actually space there because they don't want sometime actually literature review. You need to write a very practitioner oriented journal, or you need to write papers in a way that practitioners can read and understand things. That's it. Right? And therefore you always need to look at the priority in terms of, where you want to focus on that. And again, Durga, I rarely look at ISSN number or ISBN number publications because it is pretty clear that where I want to go, what I want to get. Is it so? Once you decide that, don't look at left and right and just go for it. That's it. There is no confusion there. And if you decide that, yes, I want to publish in Scopus Index journals, do it only in Scopus Index journals, because so that what you can do, definitely all the Scopus Index journals will be there in your care listing, because I never see care listing journals actually, because we don't need to look at care listing journals. And that's the reason I'm not very familiar with care, right? UGC care listing and all. So now, I mean, what if you ask me a suggestion that which is a base level at which you can trust, I would say that, base level recommendation is Scopus. Scopus would be the best platform through which you can recognize your journal papers, right? Yeah, which are the open source journals for collecting papers for reviews in trade relation or other. And anyway, so what do you do, Mujahid? You just look at your databases such as Science Direct, and probably there you can use your keywords. From the keywords, you can get an understanding from the keywords, right? Yeah. Now, many of you people got a doubt that how do we look at, how do we identify that whether the journal is part of Scopus? Is it so? That's what the question. How do we identify that whether the journal is part of Scopus? Is it? So what do? You just go to this web page. Can you see my screen? So www.scopus.com, this one. This is our actually website through which we are accessed. Up to here you go. www.scopus.com, right? And there, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Give me a second.
Yes, sir.
Yes, www.scopus.com. I'll give it. So here, can you see something content coverage? I mean, in my case, I have access through my institution. Okay, so I have access through my institution. I have a login and ID, which I created, which you can create, right? And here, can you see something called as content coverage? Are you able to locate? So here.
Yes.
Can you see download the source list here? So it's an Excel file. It's an Excel file. It contains all the Scopus index journals in all the disciplines. And all the disciplines. Scopus index journals in all the disciplines. Yeah, I'll share the PPT, right? You can download, but here it's an exhaustive list. It's an exhaustive list. From after downloading the list, probably you can open the list, right? It's an Excel sheet, right? So you can locate it and you can identify one by one in your area. That's what it do. There is another strategy. There is an alternative strategy. I'll tell you what is that alternative strategy. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you can type in Google that Shimago journal rank. You will get Shimago here, right? Is it? Right? So let's assume that I'm typing here the name called as Journal of Interactive Marketing, right? You do a search here. It's showing the similar searches, right? So you can see the list here, right? Journal of Interactive Marketing is here, right? Is it so? Now, when I'm clicking on that, you will get something like this, right? Is it? I'll tell you, Said. Don't worry. So can you see something here, Q1, right? Q1 here?
Yes.
Yeah, what does it mean? Because if you look at Shimago is a platform where you can see all the Scopus index journal, only Scopus index, okay? All the Scopus index journal. It means that if it is part of Shimago, it means that it's part of Scopus. You understood the point? Now, second is that looking at Shimago, you can easily identify what's the ranking of the journal. Scopus is an indexing service, is it? Scopus is an indexing. Indexing in the sense, it's like ISI index, right? ISI mark, is it so? Scopus means whether it's part of Scopus or not. But many times we actually feel difficult in terms of identifying the ranking. Ranking means we want to see the levels of journals, right? Is it good, bad journal, right? So here, Shimago classifies journals into quartiles. So they classify into Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, right? Q1 mean, what do you mean by Q1? Very top quartile journals comes in Q1. Is it so? In the area, because it says that if you look at these two journals, so the journal which I typed, Journal of Interactive Marketing, which actually looking at two areas. One is business and international management. At the same time, it also publishes papers related to marketing, which is currently, that is 2009, that is the latest one, rated as Q1. Right? So what does it indicate? What does it indicate? It indicates that that is a high quality journal. Is it so? As per Scopus, as per Shimago, that's a highly ranked journal. Highly ranked journal. Is it? Yes or no? Yes. So it means that.
Yes, sir.
Even if you are not able to locate or feel difficulty in terms of locating papers from a Scopus page, you can come down to Shimago, you can type the journal name there, and you can see its quartile, and you can understand the ranking. For example, your paper is actually a mediocre paper. It's not very good paper, but it's okay paper, okay paper. Now you want to publish in a Scopus list journal. Which journal you locked, or which ranking you locked? Is it Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4? I mean, you got the point, right? You got the point. The point is that your paper is an okay paper, not an extraordinary paper. At the same time, you want to publish only in Scopus listed journal. Now you want to locate a journal from the Scopus list. What ranking or what quartile you will select in terms of your publication? Will you select Q1? Yes, somebody said that they will look at Q3 or Q4. Is it so? It means that that's the right decision, because there's a high chance I'll get through, because that shows the quality of the journal, because your paper is not having high quality, is it? In that case, it's better to look at the match between your paper versus the journal requirement, is it? If journal requires that kind of papers, at the same time, journal ranking is relatively lower side, and if the paper is also having low quality, and at the same time, you want to publish in Scopus index journals, so my suggestion is that look at Q3 or Q4. But at the same time, if you start looking at a low quality paper into Q1, there's going to be high chance of rejection. High chance of rejection. It means that looking at this priority ranking, we can easily prioritize in terms of our submission. Is it? Yes or no? All right. Is it clear? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So have you, I mean, I'm just using our own web page, okay? Our web page actually. So we have one service called as Journal Citation Index, JCR. JCR is published by Web of Science every year. Journal Citation Report is published by or supported by Thomson Reuters every year. It actually provides a report. They will publish every year. And if it is part of JCR, if any journal is part of JCR, that means that it is part of SSCI indexing. SSCI indexing. You understood the point? SSCI indexing. So if I click on JCR, because that JCR is not freely available. Again, I'm just telling you, JCR is not freely available. So JCR, you need subscription, the institution-wise subscription you need, otherwise you can't access JCR. For getting JCR, you need subscriptions. For example, I'm typing Journal of Here you can make a search. Just a minute. Right. So this is a JCR list of this journal. So categories, it's given here, right? It's business SSCI. Is it so? It's part of Social Science Citation Index because SCI is for science journal and SSCI is for social science journals. Yes or no? Is it clear to you? Now, if you come down, you can see the impact factor of the journal, latest impact factor, published by JCR, which is called as Clarivate Analytics Impact Factor. This is called as Clarivate Analytics Impact Factor. So, or we call it as JIF, Journal Impact Factor, right? So you can see how the journal is progressing over the years, right? So right now the impact factor is actually almost around 5.097, and you can see which are the papers it got cited, how many citations actually, what are the papers. This is one paper actually which got cited, almost 20. So we can see the details about that and also see the calculations behind that. That depends on Alina, that depends on your area. I'll discuss actually, because different areas got and different. For example, if you look at, there is a journal called as Nature, that is in fundamental science. That is natural science, I believe, that Nature got an impact factor of around 32 plus. Right? And generally in that discipline, impact factor is relatively higher, but at the same time, social science research, impact factor is relatively lower. Impact factor also shows that that's a better journal, in social science at least, right? And that is primarily because of the fact that in social science, there are many journals. In many journals, if there are higher number of journals, there is a high chance that, there is a low chance that, you'll get a citation for your journal. Is it so? If there is low chance for getting citation, your impact factor may probably come down, right? Average impact factor would be low for social science journals. At the same time, fundamental science and all, there are less number of journals. Whosoever do some research, they may cite papers from that particular journal. Is it so? There's going to be a higher number of citations. Is it? That's what the aspect actually. Across disciplines, you cannot compare. So when you're looking at social science, you look at social science only. Social science generally impact factor. Somebody say in social science that you published a paper with 10 impact factor, that shows that, if he's a right impact factor, that shows that that's a great journal. But majority of them, they don't know actually what impact factor they're following, right? And we don't have this source, but remember, when you're following impact factor, please follow JIF. JIF is an impact factor given by, or is actually promoted by Clarivate Analytics. Clarivate Analytics part of Thomson Reuters, and that is very authentic in nature. That is very authentic. Now, you may ask another question that, yes, we don't have access to JCR. How do we identify impact factor? Is it so? If you don't have access to JCR, because JCR is relatively expensive subscription, is it? How do we access it? Yeah, one thing is that I'll tell you, you don't require JCR, and rather what you do, you go to Google and you type Journal of Interactive Marketing, you go to journal webpage. You go to journal webpage, come to the journal webpage. And if a journal is part of JCR, it will reveal the impact factor here, right? Is it? Is visible? Is it so? So it means that, right? It means that if your journal is part of JCR, they will definitely report the same thing in the journal webpage, right? And because that's the most premium, well accepted impact factor that is actually adds credibility to the journal. Therefore, most of the journals will do the same process of doing it, right? So you can easily understand the site score and everything you can understand, right? And they will provide everything in detail, right? Is it so? And Shimago journal ranking also will give, it means it's part of Scopus, right? Is it so? So it's Shimago journal ranking is also providing. It's not very popular. That journal ranking as this value is not very popular, right? So that is not, that shows that 158 of the journal paper received more than 158 citation. 158 of the journal paper from the same journal received more than 158 citation. That's what the meaning of it. H-index. H-index 2 means 2 of the papers received more than 2 citations. You understood the point? So 158 papers from the same journal received more than 158 citations. That's what the meaning. But it doesn't make any sense as such in case of journal paper, but it makes sense to others. H-index is mostly used for assessing the quality of authors. H-index is generally used for assessing the quality of authors. Higher the H-index shows that higher the quality or better the quality of the author. In the sense, you know, the author published a lot. For example, my H-index is actually 10. It shows that 10 of my papers got cited more than 10 times. Is it so? That shows that, you know, that is a prolific, he is a prolific researcher and he's doing research. At the same time, journal mostly would be assessed based on impact factor. Journals would be assessed mostly in terms of impact factor, and the author would be assessed based on H-index. Is it clear to you all? Right. Right. So I believe I addressed your questions with respect to how do we locate journal papers from Scopus versus SCI. Different language papers, but what is the purpose of searching? Language in the sense, you know, which language, English and all, that I'm not very familiar. Dayanand, I'm not very familiar with that. Satish, actually, I never looked at UGC care actually, so that's the reason I'm not very familiar with that. I won't care actually whether UGC or not, because it's not our priority actually. So that's what UGC got another problem also. UGC add some journals today, tomorrow they will delete it. Yeah, that I'll tell you. Actually. So Deboshmita, I'll explain you later. We have an explanation later. Yes, is it clear so far? Any doubts so far? Any doubts so far? No doubt. Okay, fine. So now, in my case, when I am looking at a paper, the first thing will be I'll decide what is the journal I would like to target. So I may look at Scopus, I may look at Web of Science, or that is SCI, fine. But the first thing would be I will decide the journal, which journal I would like to target, right? And after locating that journal, I will go to the journal web page. In almost all the journals, there is a separate PDF file called as journal guidelines. Journal guidelines. I'll read the journal guidelines in detail, understand what they expect. What is their objective, what is the theme, what kind of journal paper they will accept, what kind of manuscript they need, and what's the word limit they expect, what is the structure of the paper. Everything I'll understand after reading this manuscript, that is actually journal guidelines, journal guideline. Mujahid, actually Elsevier is a subscription based. We cannot do individual subscription. We need to subscribe through institutions, right? Institutions, we cannot download it. But in Elsevier also, sometime you can see some papers called as open access papers or open access. There are some papers we can download it freely, because for that the authors made the payment. And otherwise you cannot download the papers freely if your institution is not subscribing the platform. If your institution is not subscribing the platform, my suggestion is that you need to go to some of the institutions where they have subscription, first option. A second option is that if you have some connection, some of your friends are working in some other institutions, you can send a mail or through them you can conduct. That is second option. Third option is that there are some proxy web pages. So I won't use the word or I won't tell right now, but at the end of it, you call me personally, I'll tell you. Proxy sites through which you can download. Right? And most of your colleagues or in this group would be familiar with that. What is that proxy web page? Right? So through that you can download. Then I believe that it's also good for our own benefit. That's the reason you are not selling it. Rather, you are using for your own research purpose, but that justifies the means, right? Is it so? That way you can use it. Won't be an issue. But these are proxy. I'll share at the end. No, don't worry. Right now. So my suggestion, I told you, read the other guidelines in detail. Read the other guidelines in detail, right? Is it so? Now, again, make sure that content is essential. Content is essential. Every sentence you write. Vaishali, that is a very difficult question. It actually, if you reveal in your paper that you have published a paper, but at the same time, that paper data is used for other publication, that is not ethically correct. That is not ethically correct. And even if you reveal it, there is a chance that reviewer may reject your paper. And again, if you are using the same data as such for other paper, it shows that your latest paper is not very unique. You understood the point? So if you want to talk about the uniqueness of your latest paper, you need to make sure that your latest paper is different from previous paper. That is very important. So again, in terms of ISBN numbered edited oleum, if you ask me whether you are actually having credibility for ISBN numbered edited oleum, I would say that paper journal publication carry more weightage than that of edited oleums. Right? And therefore, my suggestion to you is that if the paper is very good paper, it is better to focus to publish the paper in a journal rather than looking at an edited oleum. Right? So edited oleum generally create less weightage. And whenever I'm just coming back to the track, and I'm just trying to say that whenever you're trying to look at a journal, look at what kind of journal or journal papers the journal demand. Because if you look at different journals demand different type of papers. For example, some journals demand full-length articles. They will not accept small articles. They will accept full-length article, 8,000 to 12,000 words. Again, different journals got different word limits. Some journals accept 8,000 words paper. Some journals accept 12,000 words paper. You need to go to the journal webpage and see what is their word limit. And accordingly, you need to prepare your draft. And don't do reverse engineering. I mean, I believe you understood what it will be reverse engineering. Some people complete the paper, and when they are trying to submit the paper, they will find that journal requires 6,000 words. What they do, they will delete some of the paragraph. When you delete some of the paragraph, you lose the linkage. Is it so? Connection. Is it? Therefore, please don't do that. Rather, the day one onwards, you look at the journal, work for the journal, or look at journals in your mind. For example, look at if you're working in services marketing, look at what are those journals you can probably target. What is their word requirements or what is the guidelines? You prepare your paper accordingly. And try to make sure that you are submitting a paper which exactly follows journal norms, journal guidelines. If you deviate, sometimes some journals reject your paper, and some of the good journals reject your paper. And full-length articles are full-length research papers. It probably some of the journals demand 6,000 words, some of the journals demand 8,000 words, some of them even accept 10,000, and maximum I found so far is 12,000 words. And beyond that, I don't think actually in management, at least, we don't have any journal which accept a paper which is more than 12,000 words. And that is one setup. And another type of papers, we call it as letters. Letters are very small summary about your work. It means that you need to complete your paper within 3 to 4 pages. 3 to 4 pages, and it's a small summary of your complete paper. It's not some, an abstract of your paper, rather it's a detailed abstract of your paper. Is it? Some journals accept only letters, right? And some journals will accept review papers. A review means we call it as systematic literature review papers or something like that, right? And systematic literature reviews. And again, my suggestion to you is that you evaluate your work and look at what is the type of paper which you're trying to submit, whether the journal accepts the type of paper which you are trying to submit or not. So you need to look at the past records. Past records in the sense you go back to the journal and look at some of the past publications and see what kind of journal papers they actually published, what kind of methods they are actually publishing periodically, and what is the word limit, what is the style, and everything you understand, accordingly you submit. And please don't do it blindly, because you can save your time as well as you can save editor's time, right? It is very, very important that you are saving your time. And again, decide the type of audience and keep the journal in your mind and structure the paper. Review paper, I'm not very familiar. You are talking about, Shashik, you are talking about the bibliography. Bibliography is, if you look at literature review, the least accepted one in literature review is bibliography. And I never did actually a bibliography study. Rather, I did a lot of studies on literature review, systematic literature review. For systematic literature review, we don't need to use any kind of softwares. We don't need to use any kind of softwares. But otherwise, I never did actually bibliography, but because I just interacted with some of the editors, they even told me that bibliography, they don't prefer it because bibliography means people simply do a lot of visualizations and all. Their preference is more towards systematic literature review. And probably if you can do a systematic literature in comparison to bibliography, there is a high chance of conversion. Right. I mean, this would be the structure generally people follow. And most of the journals, while doing submissions, and you need to prepare separate drafts actually. For example, some of the journals in Elsevier especially, and they require journals through or journal papers through a portal called as Manuscript Central. We submit the paper through a portal called as Manuscript Central. During the submission time, you need to submit the file separately. For example, you need to submit a title page, including the title, abstract, and author affiliation. That is a separate page. That is called as title page. You also need to prepare another separate file without author details. That is called as full-length article without author details, with title, abstract, and the article, complete article. There is no need to put the author's names there. And that is second draft, second file you need. And third file, some journals also demand your figures and tables are separate files. Figures and tables are separate. They don't want to put your figures and tables in your text. Rather, wherever figure comes, you can say that insert figure 1 here, insert figure 2 here, something like that. You can provide figures and tables as a separate file. During the time of submission, you can upload. There will be an option called as in upload figure, upload table. You can upload it separately. It automatically updated. So how rearrange? Shilpa, it is up to you whether you want to work on the paper. If you feel that your paper need very drastic changes, because you can incorporate some of the changes suggested by reviewers in the previous review process, probably you can look at that review. Accordingly, you can modify it. But otherwise, my suggestion is that you look at your paper yourself. That is self-evaluation. And look at what are the lacuna with respect to the paper. But that's going to be a tough job. I mean, reworking on the completed paper is going to be a tough job rather than working for a new paper. So my suggestion at the beginning, when day one, when you're working for a paper, make sure that this actually follows some quality criteria. But the problem is that if you want to rework after some point in time, you'll spend a lot of time, because probably you completed the paper on 1 year back. Now, if you take the paper back again, you'll not be able to connect many of these concepts, right? My suggestion is that day one, if you work for the paper, make sure that it follows some minimum quality criteria, so that you can crack some of the journals. Right. And many people, what they do, they will write the paper, prepare the paper, and they will use very languages, very, I mean, they know that their language is not good enough, but what they do, they will submit the paper. But make sure that when you're submitting the paper, you read the paper in detail and make sure that there is no issues. Look at the complaint from one of the editors. and one of the editors made this complaint. You can understand that. Let me show you. Yes, look at this complaint. Yeah, in between I'll discuss the issue. Harshini, once you publish a paper, it's very difficult to withdraw the paper because you done the publication. But once you submit the paper, you can withdraw. If it is under review, you can withdraw it. But once you publish it, it is tough to withdraw. So better not to do that. You can't do that. They won't allow because you already signed copyright and all, and now they publish also. After publication, it's very difficult to withdraw. You can't even target another. Right. And many times language is very important when you are looking at the, but my suggestion, if somebody feels that their language is poor, but you make sure that they want whatever is your understanding. In your understanding, it is actually very good. But otherwise, you can also use the help of an external person who is good in terms of language, but you just try to improve over a period of time. Try to improve. Don't make sure that every time you're writing the same style. If you do the same process again and again and again, even after getting a lot of review comments and a lot of revisions and all, if you do the same language or use the same language, then it's not going to improve your paper. But my suggestion is that learn from the mistakes. Bibliographic papers, you can do it, but Joshi, I'll tell you the problem is that the acceptability is relatively less than that of your systematic literature review paper. So if you can, right. Now, look at this sentence. Look at this sentence. Is it a good sentence? How about this sentence? What's the problem? Long sentence, right? Is it so? Many people feel that if they complex the writing, there is a high chance of acceptance. But in journals, that is slightly different. Journals, you need to make sure that it is very simple and easy to understand. If you feel that your sentence is too complex, too difficult to understand, simplify it. For example, you can split the sentence so that you can make sure that the reader will understand it better. Is it? Right? And read and read and read and read. That's the ultimate philosophy. Yes, true, Devi. In grammar and spelling is so important. Make sure that, read and again and again and again. Many people, what they do, they'll do a lot of compromise. Because what they do when they write a paragraph, they will not read again. That's it. That's the ultimate. When I write something today, tomorrow also I need to take up and I need to read it again and again. I need to make sure that there is no issues, right? Or some people, they can take the printout, they can read and understand whether the meaning which I would like to communicate is clearly communicated, or there is a problem with language, sentence, any issues there, you can correct it. And please make sure you're submitting the paper after doing all the corrections. If you're not confident, please don't submit. Because sometimes your idea is so great, everything is fine, everything you've done it in a well manner actually, but ultimately you are getting a rejection because of the fact that you are very much non-serious or not serious with respect to your submissions, right? So it actually communicate some kind of message to your reviewer or to editor. So therefore, make sure that you are very serious researcher. Make sure that you are very serious. And when you're talking about title, a title is always an important thing because many times people give any title, whichever they think actually, because many cases, when you trying to look at title and the keywords of your and many cases, somebody search your paper, they are getting your paper because of your title. Is it so? Because of your title. And therefore, you need to make sure your title contains relevant keywords. At the same time, titles are very concise and precise. Concise and precise. Some people write very long title. And after looking at your title itself, the editor feel or get an image that what kind of author you are, right? Is it so? So don't create impressions. Don't create impressions. Many times when I write a paper, I make sure that I'm an experienced writer because I'll read and read and read so that I will not give any kind of signal that, this author is actually very, 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 very beginner in this field or something like that. Right. I'll just skip some of the topic. I'll share this. Right. I'll show you some of this. Just simply. Ideal title, I found 15 to 20 words. 15 to 20 words with relevant keywords. 15 to 20. Don't make it very complex. Make it within 20 words. 20 words, okay? 20 words. That's an ideal one. Now, sometimes what people do, some people got a tendency. I mean, I'm just talking about the mistake. They will do.
क्या सेवा कर सकते हैं आपकी? सुनील जी कैसे सर? मैं एकदम बोल रहे एकदम एकदम सर एक मेरे को पूछ रहे मैं बोल रहा बड़े साहब
Excuse me.
कभी तो भाव देते हैं.
Excuse me, can you mute?
ये तेरे पास भाई है भाव दे. आजा सॉन्ग करवा. ये चालू है.
Yeah. Some people, what they do, they will do analysis. After that, what they do, they will copy paste and the analysis in their text. They won't make any changes. When you are doing, for example, some people do analysis in SPSS software. They will just copy the table as such and paste it in their text. Don't do it. And that shows that you are not an experienced writer. When you are actually making tables and figures, customize the tables and figures and provide only necessary output. Minimum and maximum, that depends on your area, and make sure that minimum there will be 40 is maximum. Okay, I mean in a good, but again there is a problem. Problem is that even if you start citing 40 papers, your journal demands very 6,000. For example, you are looking at a journal, it actually demands 6,000 words paper, 40 references, right? 40 references, that itself consumes a lot of space. Is it so? Looking at many other priorities, you need to look at number of references. If a journal demands 12,000 words paper, you can include some more, right? But make sure that you're including or excluding references based on some criteria. Don't do it randomly. Some people do it randomly because they will go to Google, they will identify something, they'll write. That's it. Don't do it. There should be some criteria. And in addition here, what I said, when you are getting tables, figures from your software analysis, customize it and present it. And tables are very lengthy. Try to customize and provide only necessary tables and figures. An ideal case, 3 to 4 small tables is sufficient. 3 to 4 tables and figures, max. Don't put too many tables and too many figures. If again, my suggestion is that tables and figures, or figures especially, it's not very clear. Don't do it. Don't put it actually. And if there is no figure, they won't reject it. But what I'm saying, if there's a bad figure, there's a high chance of rejection. It's not clear figure, there's a high chance of rejection, right? And yeah. I'll share the PPT so that you can understand, because due to lack of time, and again, very important thing, most of the good journals is that while submission, during the time of submission, we need another letter called as cover letter. So most of the journals requires cover letter. And what is cover letter? Cover letter is actually provides a statement where you are trying to communicate to the editor that what is the uniqueness of your paper. This is required during the time of submission. Prepare a separate cover letter. And then this cover letter, you just state what is the uniqueness of your study. Just mention it in a paragraph. In a paragraph, you can mention that. So this is what my study, the objective of study is this one. I collected data from here. And this way the study contributes to theory and practice. So that you can convince the editor that this is what the study is all about. Prepare a cover letter. And cover letter is actually very important. Many times editor will create an impression or get an impression because of your cover letter. Because by looking at the cover letter, he will understand what is your study all about, right? And prepare a good cover letter. And again, somewhere, some journals demand, during the time of submissions, demand potential reviewers, right? Some people, what they do, they will suggest their friend's name. Please don't do that. When you are getting potential reviewer suggestion, you go back to your Scopus or Web of Science, wherever you are getting your papers, look at some of the people who publish in the area. Get their references, get their mail ID and their contact address, and give it as actually your reviewer suggestion. So please don't give your friend's name as your reviewer in top journals, because definitely any editor, while selecting reviewer, even if you give some suggestions, they will select reviewers based on their expertise. Nowadays, if you copy paste somebody's name in Google, We can easily locate anyone, right? Easily locate, don't give it. And again, when it comes to plagiarism or copyright issues or copyright violation, generally, okay, so I'll tell you that. So in terms of copyright, generally copyright is with us and we are giving publication right to the journal. Is it so? Publication right? And this comes after accepting your paper, not before, right? Copyright submissions comes after submitting your paper. Sorry, after accepting your paper. And many times some people, what they do, they will do duplicate submissions. Duplicate submission in the sense they will submit in 2 spaces. Don't do that. And duplicate publication. What they do, they will split the paper into 2. One paper would be for journal 1, one paper would be journal 2. Don't do that. It's not ethically correct, because tomorrow somebody read your paper and it's looking very bad, right? And some people cook up the data and make some false claims. Sometimes you will not cite relevant authors there. And sometimes we won't use proper citations there. Sometimes we'll do copying. That is plagiarism, right? And don't do that. These are unethical issues because it ultimately affect your career. It's better, you need to be very, very direct from the day one, so that, you know, tomorrow you don't know, tomorrow you become a great author, that time it will affect your career. It's better not to do that. Better not to do that. And some people do publish and perish. Plagiarism is actually a crime. And some cases, if you do plagiarism, what will happen if the journal identify you after some point in time, they will keep your paper in retracted mode. It means that this paper copied somebody's idea, published their paper. If they come to know a later point in time, not before, later point in time that, you know, you are copying or you copied somebody's idea and put in a different way, and they will put your paper in retracted mode, it will adversely affect your career, because it will be there in your journal web page. If it is there in journal web page, if somebody search your details, definitely they will identify that you are in the retracted list. If somebody identify that your paper is in retracted list, it will create a very, very bad impression. Is it so? Very, very bad impression. So please make sure that you are not actually comes in that list. That is very much required, that, you know, you need to avoid plagiarism. And it'll be there, always there in Science Direct or EBSCO, wherever its platform it is there published, it will be there always. And people can see that, right? And again, multiple submissions, not a guide idea, and duplicate submission, right? And look at the reasons of rejection. Look at the reasons of rejection. Why they reject it? Why they reject the paper? So it fails technical screening. What is technical screening? You're not following the journal guidelines. It's like word limit, structuring the paper, right? And it is actually out of, your paper is out of the aims and scope. It is incomplete sometimes. Some people submit the paper, it's not completed paper. And sometimes your procedure is actually not right. And sometimes people prepare a draft, which is an extension of a big paper, right? And incomprehensible. Sometimes, you know, if the editor feels that's a boring paper, then they'll reject it. Right? Is it okay? Right, there is another. Right? I believe everyone is clear with this. Is it so? Why they reject your paper? Is it so? Things are very straight, is it? Yeah, the review process I mentioned, that I discussed actually. Generally, you will submit to the team. It'll go to the editorial board. Editorial board will review your paper. If they are happy, they will forward to reviewer. And minimum 2 to 3 or 4 reviews would be there. They will give you minor revision, accept, major revision, or reject. When they actually take the decision, reviewers will forward back to the editor again, and editor will send it back to the authors. That's what the process, this process will go for around 2 to 3 rounds actually. At the beginning, if the editor feels that the paper is not carrying that much quality, at the beginning itself, they'll reject the paper. It's called as dust rejection. If the editor feels that the paper carries some quality, probably it will go for minimum 2 to 3 rounds of process. Finally, if the editors are happy and the reviewers are happy, then they will accept the paper. That's what the review process. And impact factor, I just explained that. And again, you asked a question that, is it possible to compare impact factor across discipline? It is, no, you can't compare across discipline because look at the average impact factor. This is a very old data, 1998 data, but still actually we have this one now probably around social science also impact factor is 1.5 or something like that. We cannot compare across disciplines. Even I was talking about some of the prestigious journals like Nature got an impact factor which is 32.2, and around 20% of the journals or 20% of the papers actually not even cited in that. So some of you people ask me a question that how do I disseminate? The first and most important strategy is that you can use some of the social media platforms, the first thing. And second thing is that you update your profile. You update your profile. I mean, if you have an institutional profile, you update it. And if you have a Google Scholar profile, you please update that. And if you have a ResearchGate site, you update that. So if anything is there, you just try to communicate through your social media platform or something like that. Then people try to read your paper, right? Please share the information with a different group of people so that they will share and finally you will get. And also during the time of submission, I was talking about in the title and abstract and keyword, use the relevant keywords so that in the search engine, when somebody search your paper, they can easily track your paper because of relevant keywords. Is it so? Is it so? That is also another strategy. So sometimes some people, what they do, they will make their title there won't be any relevant keywords. What happened ultimately, if somebody search your paper, they will not track your paper. They will not get your paper. So make sure that you are rationally deciding the title and keywords so that people come to notice your paper, right? And then how do we evaluate your performance? I generally evaluate my performance based on citations, which I receive every year, and number of papers and another one is H-index. H-index, I told you what is H-index of 10. 10 of my papers cited more than 10 times. Is it so? 10 of my papers cited more than 10 times. That is H-index, and an author credibility can be evaluated based on H-index, author credibility, right? And how to find, where to find H-index, you can find from so many different sources, and Google Scholar, Web of Science, and that is Scopus, and you can get the H-index there, right? And finally, I have some recommendations. So I have some recommendations that what are the general strategy you can probably follow. So my recommendation is that don't look at a particular area, rather try to look at your area and diversify your area into different related areas. And don't look at only one single paper and wait for it. Don't do that. Maintain stock of papers. And if you have 2 or more great ideas, don't put all these 2 ideas in a single paper. Present a separate paper. Always approach a different set of journals. Don't again and again and again same set of journals. Try to focus, try to diversify, and try to give your publication to different set of journals, because that always creates a different impression. And again, most of us are actually working through Word, Microsoft Word and all, right? Is it so? And therefore, learn the word processing skill. And again, whichever journals are there in your area, please update the journal news, because many cases, if I update the journal news, and so that you can understand, for example, special issue, call for papers, and they also sometimes reveal the latest downloads, we can understand which is the area, which is a prominent area. Please update the journal news. And if you feel that there is some good conference happening, and there's a good conference, please submit your paper before submitting journal. So that good conference, you'll get very valid suggestions. And you can also look at something differently, that in many times when you're looking at Your journal publication is very important that you need very good co-authors. Cultivate a relationship with your co-authors. That is very, very important. Your ego doesn't create any kind of sense there, and keep your ego side and start working with others, because you can save a lot of time. Right? And avoid writing comments on other paper. Please don't write comments on other. Many people, will criticize other papers. They'll say that this paper did not do anything like this, therefore my paper is doing that. Don't do that. And we are doing over their work. Is it so? They did something. That's the reason we are able to do it, right? Is it so? Please appreciate their work, and rather you try to address something in your paper, and give more time on your introduction, discussion, and limitation. So first and last is so important. First and last. So intro, we need a lot of time. At the same time, last session, discussion and implication play a great role. And avoid predominantly citing your own work, because if you start citing your own work, a reviewer can easily locate your affiliation. If a reviewer locate your affiliation, if you are actually a beginner, try to reject. Many cases, what reviewers look at. If in my paper, around 20 citations are from my own work, definitely as a reviewer, they can locate my affiliation, right? Is it so? So please don't allow, right? And avoid using too many quotations. It creates a bad impression. So too many quotations, some people do it to avoid plagiarism. Because quotation generally will not count in plagiarism. That's the reason they are providing quotations. Please avoid it actually. So these are my general suggestions. And with that, probably we have a time limit. Again, I'm just telling you that, I usually handle these kind of sessions. We need, if you want to have it actually in a good manner, we need at least 2 days time. We have a lot of things to discuss. 3 hours, I don't think actually within 3 hours we can complete. So we need a lot of time actually. For example, we almost took almost 3 hours. Is it so? It's not sufficient, but I believe I just gave you some kind of, insights, so that you got something that is sufficient to start with. And probably if you start with this particular orientation, you can easily do something really great. Right? Thank you so much for your appreciations. Right? And any questions you can ask right now? Any questions?
Thank you, sir. Now the session is open for interaction. You can post your questions in the chat box.
Yeah, so I'll give my mail ID. This is my mail ID. How to publish? The same way only, publishing in Taylor and Francis. There is no differences actually. So I'll share my PPTs to the team. Probably they will share you, right? Is it okay? This is about my number. Any questions? Any questions?
Thank you. A link for the feedback form is pasted in the chat box. Kindly fill in the details with utmost care. Now we
plagiarism. Sadish asked a question. How do we check plagiarism? Sadish, we have a software called Turnitin actually. Turnitin, and we generally use Turnitin software to check it actually. So probably you can look at it. Turnitin actually. It's not a free platform. It's a paid platform. Right. And at IMK, we are also running some kind of workshops actually. So with respect to journal publications and all. And please look at it. And otherwise, if you are really keen on, send a WhatsApp message so that I can communicate to you with respect to the programs we conduct with respect to, journal publications and all. We have it. We have almost around 1 week program, almost around 20 hours program for journal publications. And review time, that's very difficult to identify. Some journals will reveal, and the number which I gave you, Sajid, is actually a WhatsApp number. Review time, it is very difficult to identify. Some journals requires a very lengthy process that probably some journals will reveal in their journal webpage. For example, in their webpage, they will mention that, so publication time is 3 months or something like that, they'll mention. But otherwise, if you want to get more understanding, and you need to get from your colleagues, somebody submitted the paper. No, Subgen, actually the problem is that some people use Turnitin, and what they do during the submission, during the plagiarism check, they will save your paper in that. When somebody checking your paper, tell them that when you're checking it, don't save the paper there. Only check and leave it, that's it. If you save the paper in the Turnitin software, it will show it as plagiarism. Don't save it. Do only plagiarism, that's it. Some people, what they do, during the checking time, they will use the option save as. So it will be saved in Turnitin platform, so that it will count as plagiarism again. Right? That's the reason. If your instructor or your colleague is looking at that, tell them that, please don't save my paper, rather simply check and give me the output, that's it. And you need to tell tell the person who is checking, tell them that don't save your paper, save the paper, only check it, that's it. Some of the instructors, for example, some of the faculties, what they do, by default, they have an option in the settings that, they will click on the option saving, so that whosoever check plagiarism through their portal will be automatically saved. Tell the person that when you are checking it, don't save this paper in that platform. Simply checking, that is sufficient. So otherwise it creates some issues. Afterwards, if you check somewhere, it'll count as plagiarism because this paper is already there in that platform. That's the reason. Anything else? And if it is already done, you need to tell the person to remove the paper from the platform. That's it. That's only one option. The person who saved, he can easily remove it. Right? Anything else? Yes, I believe we all enjoyed it actually. So I won't claim that you got everything, but I just gave you motivation. That's what my objective is. It.
Thank you, sir. Now we have come to the end of the interactive section. It is indeed my pleasure to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of the entire audience, extend our heartfelt gratitude Dr. Srijesh S., who blessed us with his presence and took out valuable time of his busy schedule. Speaking about this session, Dr. Srijesh S. has highlighted about importance of reading. As he said, we must always have a unique idea that have a great storyline. He has also discussed about scholarly journals and importance of citation in a research. As he said, we must keep in mind that review is a most important aspect of a researcher. He has also mentioned that academic research is a platform to keep engaged and update in a research area. The way he explained the topic was exceptional. Once again, on behalf of everyone present here, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Srijesh S. for gracing this occasion with his resourceful presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. We'll wind up the session today, right now. Thank you so much for your active participation. Leave. Bye.
Thank you, sir. For the kind attention of the participants, we request the participants to precisely enter the details in the feedback form and double check major details like name of the institution, and email address. That is going to be crucial for generating the participation e-certificates. Afternoon session will commence at 2 p.m. The topic is Research and Career Development. The resource person for the session is Dr. Asha Elizabeth Thomas, Assistant Professor, St. Paul's College, Kalamasheri. Please join the link. Please join the section using the link shared. Thank you. Thank you so much.